Chapter 74. This time, except for Jingwan, it took them 4 to 6 hours to rescue the others from the cliff. The main reason was that the terrain was too dangerous. Even if they used ropes to drop people down to save them, it was difficult to find a place to land. It was all thanks to the many monks of White Dragon Temple. Their lower bodies were solid, and their strength was great enough. It could be said that they directly paved a human ladder. If it were other servants, they would have become weak before they could get down. In addition, Jingwan's carriage was at the outermost, sandwiched between 2 trees. The horse was hanging in midair. When all the people who were thrown out of the carriage were rescued, the horse had been hanged alive. If that was all, it would not be a big deal. However, Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Shuang were still in the carriage. After such a long time, the roots of the 2 trees had been turned over from the soil. Even if the carriage was on the verge of collapse, the 2 of them shrank as much as possible to the back of the carriage. Their hands were tightly gripping the window. Even if their nails were bleeding, their fingers were numb, and their consciousness was getting worse. They did not dare to move. They were afraid that they would fall down. They did not know why they were still holding on. In this way, they could not directly cut the rope of the horse. Jingwan was still below. They did not know her exact position. If they let the horse fall, what if it hit her? Some people wanted to say that since it was confirmed that she fell on the bottom of the river, how could there be a chance of survival? But when she saw Madame Luo's tense face, she didn't dare to say it out loud. In the beginning, someone had only muttered a few words, but she had heard it from far away. She looked at the amiable old woman with a fierce gaze, as if she wanted to devour someone. And it was definitely not only Madame Luo who cared about Jingwan's safety. Even the most obedient cat would show its sharpest claws after this. Whoever dared to say another word would not have a good ending. Even if White Dragon Temple had already sent monks and Luo family servants down the mountain to find Jingwan, even if the others were rescued, Madame Luo still stood at the edge of the cliff and refused to leave. Gong Mama did her best to comfort old Madame Luo, telling her that Miss was blessed by the heavens, and that nothing would happen to her. However, these words were useless and powerless at the moment. Nanny Gong was such a strict person that she would never criticize others in her heart. When she stood beside Madame Luo, she cursed Li Hongyuan fiercely in her heart. That bastard had always done whatever he wanted without considering the feelings of others. At that moment, Nanny Gong even had the impulse to tell Jingwan everything, so that she could see his true colors. In the end, it was Great Master Liaochen who arrived late, and personally assured old Madame Luo that third Miss Luo's life was not in danger. When others said that Jingwan had no chance of survival, old Madame Luo was so angry that her eyes turned red, and she didn't believe them. But when Master Liaochen said this, she was still suspicious. In fact, she also faintly felt that her most beloved granddaughter was gone. After all, she was so tall. How much good fortune did she have to be to let her escape death? Because of this, she suspected Master Liaochen as well. Ba, Master Liaochen said. There are no signs in old Madame's life that the white-haired person will have to send off the black-haired person. Therefore, old Madame, you can rest assured. This was a blessing in disguise for old Madame Luo. Master Liaochen had 3 divinations every year. But in fact, he had already divined 2 out of the 3. Somehow, he felt that the 3rd destined person was about to appear. However, in order to comfort old Madame Luo, he was not stingy. Therefore, when Master Liaochen said that there was a destined person, it was not certain. He was always merciful, not inflexible at all. Old Madame Luo was startled. Only then did she remember Master Liaochen's reputation. For decades his predictions had never been wrong. She finally showed a look of surprise. Thank you, Master Liaochen. Thank you, Master Liaochen. Other than anything else, she would definitely add a large sum of money to the White Dragon Temple. Hearing this, the others breathed a sigh of relief. As for whether her injuries would be serious, when people were in desperate straits, a little bit of comfort was enough. At this time, their thoughts were almost the same as Jingwan's. As long as she was alive, there was hope. If something really happened, the Luo family would be able to support her for the rest of her life. Fu Yunting was the only one who didn't even have a scratch on his skin after falling off the cliff. He had helped save people before, and now he finally relaxed his clenched fists. He also felt a little less guilty. In fact, he had been blaming himself. If it wasn't for him, perhaps the Luo family's third daughter wouldn't have. The most regretful and distressed person was Sun Yilin. The situation of the woman he had fallen in love with was unknown, and his younger sister was seriously injured and unconscious. Most importantly, her face was injured. Such a deep and long cut, from the bottom of her earlobe to the corner of her mouth. If it was a little deeper and a little longer, it would have directly torn open the corner of her mouth. How terrible would that be? No matter how good the medicine was, it would be impossible for her to recover to her original state. Even if he just hoped that her face could be smoother, it would be very difficult. His younger sister could be considered as completely disfigured. He didn't need to say how important a woman's face was, especially in a family like theirs. His younger sister's marriage hadn't been decided yet. Without that face, there would be no value in a marriage alliance. It was conceivable that his father would not hesitate to give up his younger sister and support the concubine's younger sister. A woman who fell from the clouds into the mud would only receive more ridicule, humiliation, and trampling. Not to mention his concubine's younger sisters, who had always been at odds with his younger sister and were jealous of her. If they were allowed to gain power, his younger sister's fate was unimaginable. Jingwan being able to survive was naturally a blessing in disguise. However, this matter was far from over. Sun Yijia was the only legitimate daughter of Duke Ding, and Ruan Fangfei was the youngest legitimate daughter of the Grand Secretary of the Cabinet. Both of them were unmarried, and their value was far greater than their own. Because of Sun Yijia's disfigurement, she suddenly turned from a treasure to a broken piece of debris. Not to mention what would happen to Ruan Ruizhong. Duke Ding was bound to ask for an explanation. The so-called explanation, to put it bluntly, was to ask for benefits. Among the people involved in this matter, the one who could benefit the most from it was Ruan Ruizhong and Master Liaochen. The former was not easy to deal with, and his daughter had also been harmed. In addition, the cause of the accident was not Ruan Fangfei, so it would be difficult to extract benefits from him. The latter, on the other hand, was more valuable. If he could exchange Master Liaochen for a chance to defy the heavens and change his fate, Duke Ding wouldn't feel bad even if he lost all of his daughters, let alone one. Everyone knew what kind of person Master Liaochen was. Logically speaking, when such a big thing happened, he should have been the first to appear. If he came late, it could only mean that he had other important matters to attend to. The monks of White Dragon Temple wouldn't delay the rescue because of this, so naturally, no one could blame him. As for the beast that caused the trouble, they couldn't pin the crime of lax discipline on him, just because he was in White Dragon Temple's territory. No one knew that an even more serious matter had happened on this mountain. Madame Luo and the others were anxiously waiting for Jingwan's return. As soon as the incident happened, each family had sent the news back to the capital as quickly as possible. The first person to know about everything here was naturally Li Hongyuan's father, Li Qingdi. It could be imagined how angry he was when he learned about this matter. His son had been chased away by him for less than a day, and something had happened to him. He was besieged, fell off a cliff, fell into a river, and his life and death was unknown. So much so that he neglected the matter of Jingwan and the others falling off the cliff. At that time, Li Qingdi had already finished dealing with political affairs and was drinking wine and enjoying the dance in the inner palace with beauties in his arms. When he heard the news, he smashed everything in front of him, and the beauties around him were also chased out. Therefore, in less than a quarter of an hour, the entire inner palace knew about the assassination of Jin Qinhuang. Once the inner palace knew, the court naturally also knew about it very quickly. The matter of the flower market hadn't been cleared up yet, and here there was an even more serious disaster. Moreover, Jin Qinhuang had just arrived at Bailong Temple and was assassinated. It was hard not to link these two matters together. Thinking about the reason why Jin Qinhuang was punished, was it also a part of it? Was it someone who deliberately schemed against him? If this was really planned by someone early on, there would always be an illusion that there was an invisible big hand controlling the overall situation. It seemed that something really bad was going to happen, and the most prominent princes were all guessing who was the one who did it this time, and what was the reason for it. Although they all hated Li Hongyuan to death, and almost every day cursed him to go to the 18 layers of hell, Li Hongyuan didn't have any conflict of interest with them. No matter how hateful he was, they couldn't deal with him. With Fu Huang's protection, if they made a move against him, wouldn't that be courting death? They were just waiting for him to make a mistake, and then be tidied up by Fu Huang. Otherwise, they would just keep waiting until they were on the throne to tidy him up. This was something that everyone knew, but someone actually did it. Then the purpose was very obvious: to shift the blame. The several princes couldn't help but tense up. This matter wasn't done by them, so the person who did this wanted to deal with them. Wouldn't it be them? If the other party wanted to shift the blame onto them, then it was necessary to create evidence that was unfavorable to them. If there were no loopholes around them, then the so-called shift wouldn't succeed. But with this kind of deliberate planning, could it be that they were confident? As soon as they thought that there must be a problem with one of the links in their hands that they didn't know about, fear and anger intertwined. Investigate, they must investigate clearly. At the same time, Bai Long Temple also had to send people to investigate. Although they knew that it was a foolish act to act at this time, there was no news coming back from there. If they couldn't grasp some accurate information, they would be very passive. This wasn't like the flower market, where they could just give up and clean up the mess. If they didn't do anything and waited for the pot of sh*t to fall on their heads, then this battle for the throne could be withdrawn in advance. As his mother, imperial concubine, Su rushed to Lu Qingdi's place in an attempt to get more information. Imperial concubine Su didn't wail, and didn't even shed a tear. But her forbearance, restlessness, and panic were all seen by Lu Qingdi. My dear concubine, don't worry. It's said that scourges live for 1,000 years. That evil creature is the scourge of scourges. It won't be so easy for something to happen to him. Your Majesty, how can you talk about your own son like that? Imperial concubine Su glared at him. Okay, I said something wrong. That's my son, the son of the dragon. Naturally, he will be protected by the heavens. Naturally, he will turn misfortune into good fortune and misfortune into good fortune. Imperial concubine Su softly hummed, and wiped the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief. Although Yuan'er has a bad temper, he is the most filial. When he heard that this concubine missed the vegetarian food in Bai Long Temple, he sent someone to quickly send it back at noon. He has always been spoiled. Although this concubine didn't say it, I was afraid that he would suffer. But, Imperial concubine Su's voice was a little choked. It's all this concubine's fault. If I didn't send Yuan'er to Bai Long Temple, perhaps this wouldn't have happened. Why couldn't I pray for blessings? Why did I have to send him to Bai Long Temple? If elder sister were to find out, she would definitely blame me. Perhaps it was because she was too emotional, but Imperial consort Su spoke without thinking. Lu Qingdi's expression changed. No, Yuan'er will be fine. If something happens to him, this concubine will definitely make the person behind the scenes regret walking in this world. Imperial concubine Su felt his coldness and killing intent, and couldn't help but feel a little frightened. She knew very well that Lu Qingdi might not have thought of passing the throne to Yuan'er, but Yuan'er's position in his heart was definitely the most special among all the princes. He was so special that he was irreplaceable. He was so special that he would give up his favorite prince because of him. Lu Qingdi's reaction was a little slower, but he also had some connections that the ministers could think of. It was also at this time that Lu Qingdi's personal attendant returned. Your Majesty, this servant has asked. Imperial concubine Su looked at Lu Qingdi with some confusion. In fact, she was also asking him if she should leave. Lu Qingdi looked at her comfortingly. Speak. Chun Geng-yi, concubine Li, her maiden name is Chun, said that before she entered the palace, she was already not a virgin. That Mama Gong who examined her body had connections with her maiden family, and helped her hide it. She didn't want this matter to be known by someone, and secretly threatened her. A few days ago, she even told her that because she entered the palace and was favored, her maiden family became arrogant and domineering. They accepted bribes, forcibly occupied fertile land, and killed people. Each and every crime is unforgivable. If Chun Gung-yi doesn't listen, she will bring the matter of her maiden family to His Majesty. Last night, she received a message from that side, telling her to seduce Jin Qinhuang. After the matter is completed, not only will they help her keep the secret, but they will also prove her innocence in front of His Majesty. They will also help her clean up the matter of her maiden family and ignore any future troubles. That personal attendant lowered his head and answered truthfully, not daring to hide anything. Imperial concubine Su was very surprised. Perhaps she thought that Lu Qingdi was right next to her and was afraid of hurting his face. She hurriedly covered her mouth with a handkerchief to hide her expression. Beloved concubine doesn't need to cover it up. Zhen is also very surprised. Lu Qingdi said indifferently. Relatively speaking, Lu Qingdi's temper was relatively good. These past few years, when he lost his temper 7 out of 10 times, it was because of Li Hongyuan. Almost every time, he would fly into a rage. But when he was truly furious, he was actually very calm. Every time he was like this, it meant that the consequences of the matter would be very serious. The angriest and calmest time was when he strangled her to death with his own hands. Even for someone like Imperial concubine Su, at this time, her heart was beating faster and faster. The so-called thunder and rain were the grace of the monarch. This sentence was not false at all. No matter how many tricks you used, no matter how much honor and favor you were, one sentence from him could make you lose everything. When you couldn't hold him in the palm of your hand, you were destined to be controlled by him. Don't blame Imperial concubine Su for being the most favored in the harem for more than 20 years and still being afraid of him. Also, don't blame so many people for wanting his throne. Take all the palace servants around Chun Gung-yi into custody. Gather all the palace concubines and palace servants in the harem to watch them being interrogated. Those who don't speak will be beaten to death. Beloved concubine, go take a look too. He gently patted Imperial concubine Su's shoulder. Imperial concubine Su's hands and feet were ice cold. Her hands and feet were stiff like a puppet as she bowed and left. Those who don't speak will be beaten to death. Let's not talk about whether Chun Gung-yi's palace maids knew about her, and whether they were the ones who helped the mastermind to threaten Chun Gung-yi. If they couldn't say anything, they would die. If they didn't know and said something, they would still die. If they really were a spy, they would still die. This meant that all the palace servants who previously served Chun Gung-yi will be beaten to death. Lu Qingdi was killing the chicken to warn the monkey. He was using this method to tell everyone in the harem that he was the true master of the harem. If they wanted to cause trouble under his watch, they had to be prepared to be severely punished. Chun Gung-yi was not a virgin before entering the palace. As the monarch, he was deceived. In addition, she seduced his son. As the saying goes, deceiving the monarch first and intending to wear a green hat later, Lu Qingdi had eyes but failed to see, and pampered her for several months. It could be said that this made him lose all face. This kind of thing should have been tightly covered up, but Lu Qingdi did the opposite. It could be said that he was announcing it to the harem. With such an open cover, how many courtiers would not know? An emperor who didn't even care about his own face. Then what exactly did he want to do? It was terrifying to think about. Perhaps because he had vented some of his anger, Lu Qingdi's mood calmed down a lot. He firmly believed that his evil son would not die so easily. Finally, he seemed to remember that there seemed to be another matter. He took the letter again and read it carefully. The letter was concise and to the point. It only explained the cause of the incident and the people who fell off the cliff. The situation of those people was still unknown. It seemed that the next letter would be after the result of the incident. Lu Qingdi frowned. He was not sure whether the two things were related. After all, it was a sudden accident on the other side. His son was assassinated here. He had reason to suspect that the killers deliberately created chaos to lure the monks of White Dragon Temple away. Without the help of the monks of White Dragon Temple, it would be easier to assassinate his son. If this was really the case, then the whole thing would become more complicated and troublesome. If it was just a coincidence, then it wouldn't be much less troublesome. Some people might try to link the two things together. After all, it was easier to fish in muddy water. In this way, Lu Qingdi had to consider the worst case. None of the old foxes in the imperial court were easy to deal with. Lu Qingdi had a headache. These bastards couldn't stop. He secretly made up his mind that he would punish the mastermind severely once he caught him. After thinking about it, he still couldn't come up with a good result. Therefore, without saying anything, he summoned all the elders of the people involved in the letter to the palace. It seemed that they had already known about it. Of course, the elders of Fu Yenting were excluded. Only he, who was paralyzed in bed, was not dead, probably because of his nephew's marriage. He was not dead, but just like a living dead. Lu Qingdi directly threw the trouble to them. He said very straightforwardly, "What do you want? Tell me. I will try my best to satisfy you. If your request is too excessive, get out of my way. Anyway, it has nothing to do with me." Although he said it euphemistically, Lu Qingdi clearly meant this. Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Yingshuang's father were a little flattered and didn't know what to say for a while. Perhaps because his father-in-law, Luo Peishan, was here, Yuan Xiaoqiao's father wanted to follow his lead. However, Luo Peishan had his back to him. It was not convenient for him to speak, so he could only keep silent. Although Yuan Ruizhong looked calm, there was unspeakable worry in his eyes. He took the initiative to say, "Your Majesty, no matter what happens to my daughter, it is her own fate. This matter has nothing to do with your Majesty. It is my honor to receive your Majesty's favor. It is my daughter's honor. I dare not ask for anything more from your Majesty." That was why people said that the Grand Secretary of the Cabinet was extraordinary. Hearing these words, Lu Qingdi felt that it was ironic. Compared with Lu Qingdi, Duke Ding was not very happy. He cursed twice fiercely. "You know how to pretend to be a good person. Your Majesty, the specific situation is still unknown. It is better to wait until it is clear." He didn't care about Sun Yijia's safety, but he didn't know the specific situation. It was not good for him to speak. If she died naturally, he could get the most benefits. She was his favorite, not his treasure. If she was seriously injured, it would be best if the emperor could solve her future for her. If she was lucky and only suffered minor injuries, then it would be best to make it as serious as possible. In short, the abacus in his heart was crackling. "Aiqing Luo, what do you think?" Lu Qingdi saw that Luo Peishan was silent, so he asked. "Your Majesty, this subject believes that this subject's granddaughter will be safe and sound. Therefore, this subject has no request." Lu Qingdi looked at him and was quite surprised. Luo Peishan usually didn't speak like this. However, looking at his appearance, he really didn't mean what he said. However, didn't this mean that he really valued his family's younger generation? Only if he truly cared would he wholeheartedly hope for her safety and not ask for anything else. "Okay, I got it." As for the other two people, Lu Qingdi was too lazy to pay attention to them. They were purely going through the motions. At worst, they would be rewarded after the event. This was already the most benevolent thing they could do. If it were any other time, Lu Qingdi wouldn't care even if a few more people in his family died. After the people were rescued, the families naturally sent letters to him. Lu Qingdi was the only one who had not received any news from his evil spawn. The waiting process was always worrying. The longer it went on, the more impatient he became. The servants who served him were punished one after another, because of some trivial things that no one would care about. At first, it was only 10 strokes of the cane. Then it increased to 20, 50, and finally they did nothing. Even if they just knelt on one side, he would vent his anger on them and beat them to death directly. Even the closest ones were not unscathed. Tomorrow, at least half of the servants in his palace would be replaced. Naturally, the imperial concubines were paying attention to Lu Qingdi's situation. They kept quiet out of fear, and couldn't help but hope that Li Hongyuan was fine. No matter how much he was hated, as long as he was not provoked, he would not stir up trouble in his father's harem. However, Lu Qingdi's anger was different. If something went wrong, they would be implicated. If Lu Qingdi, who didn't sleep all night, knew that his son's life was not in danger, and he was sleeping in a tender place all night, would he be so angry that he would vomit blood and die? Digression. https://www.bicken.com com/11/11807/6652956. HTML. Click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com. Mobile version reading website: mbicken.com. Chapter 75. Old Madam. Third young lady is back. Third young lady is back. Old Madam Luo's maid was so happy that she didn't even care about etiquette and hurried to the guest room where old Madam Luo was staying. Her voice could be heard from far away. If it was in the past, the mothers would have reprimanded her, but now the situation was different. Not only did they not reprimand her, they were so happy that they all went to report the good news to old Madam Luo. It had been nearly 20 hours since the accident. Even if old Madam Luo knew that Jingwan was still safe, she didn't see her and didn't know how her injury was. She couldn't stop worrying. She almost didn't sleep all night and didn't eat anything. She was already old. How could she withstand such torment? Everyone was worried that she would fall ill. But it was useless no matter how they tried to persuade her. Because if they tried to persuade her, old Madam Luo would look at them coldly. She was not your child. Of course you don't care about her. What's more, you don't want to see a group of heartless people around me. It was indeed difficult to understand that kind of anxiety and torment if one didn't experience it personally and didn't see something happen to one's loved ones. After old Madam Luo said such harsh words, no one dared to say a word. They just hoped that third young lady could come back soon. Luo Jinghua, on the other hand, stayed by old Madam Luo's side and didn't say anything comforting. He only said to old Madam Luo at the beginning, "If my sister is really not well, I will take care of her for the rest of my life. If I die before my sister, I will leave behind my last words and ask my children and grandchildren to treat their aunt and grandaunt like how they treat me. Otherwise, they will be expelled from the family." These words might sound like cursing Jingwan, but it was the most sincere and practical care. Old Madam Luo took his hand and almost burst into tears. Good. You are all good children, good children. This is fate. It may be in this life. It's rare to meet someone who is worth it. You have to cherish. The grandfather and grandson stopped talking about Jingwan, although they were waiting for her. Luo Jinghua told old Madam Luo some interesting things in the capital, and talked about the various friends he made. He tried to distract old Madam Luo as much as possible, so that the grandfather and grandson, who were not very close, were quite close in this short period of time. Even when she couldn't take it anymore, and closed her eyes to take a nap, Luo Jinghua never left. Finally she came back. Old Madam Luo suddenly, she seemed to wake up. Wan is back. Yes, grandmother. Little sister is back. Luo Jinghua was also very happy. He quickly helped her up with the servant girls. Madam Luo had not changed her clothes to begin with, so she stopped the maid from combing her hair and hurriedly walked out. But Jingwan. She was worried. Jingwan, how could Jingwan Luo worry not worry to worry? She miss she. Luo Mississippi. After waiting for the people who went to find her, she immediately went back without saying anything. Before that, she had already treated the wound on her neck. Some things with traces of Li Hongyuan were also wiped clean. On the way back, the others were worried that she couldn't bear the long journey. After all, the road was full of potholes. Before walking from the foot of the mountain to White Dragon Temple, it was basically impossible to step on a flat ground. More importantly, the journey was very long. Unexpectedly, Jingwan didn't slow them down at all. On the contrary, the servants of the Luo family didn't rest for a while and continued on the road. They were very tired. Their speed was even slower than that of the 70 or 80-old people. If they walked slowly like this, they didn't know when they could return to White Dragon Temple. Jingwan decided to go first with the two monks. To some extent, this decision was very risky. The monks from White Dragon Temple were young, not old. They were all young and strong. Of course, if they could come to find Jingwan together, There was absolutely no problem with their character. They were all devoted to Buddha and abided by the rules and precepts. But the people of the Luo family didn't know. How could they be assured to let their miss follow these two foreign men? Even if nothing happened, if they were seen by others, their miss's reputation would definitely be affected. But Jingwan couldn't continue to wait. Once emotions took the upper hand, it was difficult to suppress them with reason. She was willing to believe in the people of White Dragon Temple and gamble. From the beginning to the end, the two monks were neither sad nor happy. They knew that the servants of the Luo family didn't trust them, so they didn't explain or promise anything. After Jingwan made the decision, they dutifully escorted Jingwan back to White Dragon Temple. To Jingwan's surprise, she didn't meet anyone along the way. At first she thought it was because it was remote. Later, she gradually found that something was wrong. It was daytime, and the foot of the mountain in front of White Dragon Temple was very lively. It turned out that the two monks quietly avoided other people and protected Jingwan in their own way, putting an end to the worries of the servants of the Luo family. "Thank you very much, masters. Benefactress, you are too polite," one of them said. This was the first time that Jingwan heard them speak since she saw them. Entering the guest room in the backyard of White Dragon Temple, Jingwan saw Nurse Gong and others waiting there from a distance. She felt as if she had been separated from them for a lifetime. Seeing that Jingwan could move freely and didn't seem to be seriously injured, she was really surprised. Although Nurse Gong had known it, she still showed her joy at the right time, saying that it was God's blessing. However, Jingwan felt that Nanny Gong's gaze was constantly on the handkerchief wrapped around her neck. Originally, Jingwan didn't pay much attention to the bite mark, but under Nanny Gong's gaze, she felt an inexplicable sense of guilt. "Don't worry, Nurse Gong. It was scratched when I fell down. It will be fine after some rest." How could Nurse Gong not know whether she had such a wound on her neck or not? She didn't need to think to know what was going on. "Miss, you have suffered. I will take a look at you later. I think the wound is not deep. If you take good care of it, it won't leave a scar." Okay. Although she said that, she felt more guilty in her heart. What was going on? "Miss, do you want to take a bath first or go to see old madam first?" "I will go to see grandmother first." She clearly knew that it was not easy to survive a fall from such a high place, and that she was extremely lucky. If she still dressed neatly and beautifully, the first impression people would have upon seeing her would not be to admire her beauty, but to suspect that she was hiding something. She might as well let her grandmother see her current appearance and feel more at ease. As she walked inside, she asked about other people's conditions. After hearing about old Madame Luo's words and deeds, she felt guilty, but also touched and warmed. Needless to say, the servants had all been properly settled. Yuan Xiaoqiao broke her leg and injured her lungs. It was likely that she would suffer from chronic illness in the future. Zhou Yingshuang injured her head and accumulated a large blood clot. Master Liaochen personally examined it and said that she might lose her sight. There were several other injuries on her body, all of which were different degrees of bone damage. However, compared to her injuries, they weren't that serious. Jingwan's lips moved, but she didn't know what to say. "What about Sister Jia?" "Miss Sun's injuries were the least serious," Jingwan sighed in relief. "It wasn't bad news." Gong Mama sighed inwardly. "She's also the most serious." Jingwan's anger was stifled before she could finish speaking. Her heart ached as she hurriedly asked, "What happened?" "Miss Sun's face was injured from here to here." Gong Mama gestured to her own face. "And it's very deep. It'll be difficult to smooth it out." Jingwan was stunned. She felt as if she had been struck by lightning. If it had been her own face, she would not have cared. However, it was different for these local girls. Their faces could be said to be more important than their lives. Wasn't it the most serious injury? Disfiguring her face was equivalent to losing half of her life. If she couldn't bear it, she might even commit suicide. Wan. Old Madame Luo's voice brought Jingwan back to her senses. She saw that old Madame Luo seemed to have aged a lot in one night. Her face was haggard and her hair was slightly messy. It was one thing to hear from Gong Mama, and another to see it with her own eyes. For a moment, her heart ached and she quickly walked forward. Grandmother. Old Madame Luo didn't dare to hug her, because she was worried about her injuries. Quickly tell grandmother, where are you injured? Why didn't you just lie down? Instead, you forced yourself to come and see grandmother? Grandmother, they're all superficial injuries. They didn't hurt my bones or my lungs. Don't worry, I'm really fine. How can you be fine after falling from such a height? Your clothes are already soaked. How dare you say you're fine? Jinghua, quickly go and ask Master Liaochen to take a good look at your sister. Old Madame Luo scolded while carefully touching Jingwan's neck. It was difficult to forget how it was injured after being noticed again and again. Jingwan resisted the urge to retreat. I'll go right now. Luo Jinghua somewhat believed his sister's words. After all, it had been a long time since she fell off the cliff. If her injuries were really serious, she wouldn't have this kind of energy. Although she looked haggard, it was more like she didn't rest well. Of course, he also noticed the slightly strange expression on Jingwan's face. A large group of people surrounded Jingwan. Jingwan naturally couldn't bring up going out to see other people, especially Sister Jia. Perhaps she also didn't want to see people. Master Liaochen probably had nothing to do at the moment. When Luo Jingbo went to invite him, he quickly came over. Master Liaochen never thought that he would see Jin Qinhuang's obsession in this kind of situation. He also confirmed that she was indeed his third fated person this year. Although he couldn't read her fortune anymore, it didn't hinder anything. After seeing Jingwan's face, he didn't show it on his face, but his heart was rather moved. She and Jin Qinhuang were both outliers. Although he couldn't see the specifics clearly, he could roughly guess one or two things. These two people should be together. After all, if they couldn't be together with each other in this lifetime, it wouldn't just be the two of them who changed their fates. Not to mention other things, Jingwan's original fate should have been peaceful and smooth for the first 10 years. After marriage, there would be a major turning point. Her fate would be bumpy and full of twists and turns. Even if her heart was firm and unyielding, in the end, she still couldn't escape the fate of death. Now that the difficult fate had been cut off, gradually showing signs of happiness, longevity and good health. But it was still hazy, which meant that there might be some twists and turns. Because Jin Qinhuang forcibly changed her fate, naturally everything was going to be uncertain. Master Liaochen had always believed in letting nature take its course. Everything was decided by the heavens. However, there would always be some people that people couldn't bear. Jingwan's eyes were clear and gentle. Her heart was open and kind. This kind of person shouldn't suffer so much. Jin Qinhuang insisted on changing her fate. Other than his obsession with her, wasn't it also because he owed her a debt? The grace of saving his life in the previous life, the grace of rebirth, that changed his fate. Wasn't this also destined? Jingwan had a good impression of Master Liaochen. This was a true senior monk, true to his name. His words were as one, his countenance benevolent. Greetings to Master. Amitba. Master Liaochen smiled. Miss Luo doesn't need to be so courteous. Jingwan lightly raised her eyebrows and smiled. Why doesn't Master call me Nu Shizhu? Does everyone else in Bai Long Temple call me that? Since there are still so many people who call me that, it doesn't matter if there's one less. Not inflexible, not pedantic, not damaging his temperament as a monk, but at the same time, it made people feel that he was their elder. That's true. My daughter will have to trouble Master here. It's not considered trouble. Miss originally had an accident at Bai Long Temple, so it's considered this poor monk's fault. Who can accurately predict something like a natural disaster? Master doesn't have to take the responsibility on himself. Jingwan's tone was light. It wasn't that she tacitly agreed with Master Liaochen's words, but that she thought of Sun Yijia and the others. They didn't do anything outrageous, but they ended up like this. Heaven really was unfair. Master Liaochen helped Jingwan take her pulse as he said, Severn's misfortune may be a blessing in disguise. Jingwan stared blankly. She wasn't sure if Master Liaochen saw through her thoughts and specially comforted her. But she had heard a lot about Master Liaochen's reputation on the way here. Master is right, my daughter thought wrongly. Master Liaochen nodded. Miss Luo's body is fine. Just apply some medicine for bruises, and it'll be fine. There's no need to drink medicine. Many thanks, Master. Grandmother will be relieved to hear your words. Jingwan had wanted to ask about Li Hongyuan. Master Liaochen probably knew about the assassination attempt, but she swallowed the words back down. It wasn't because Mama Gong and the servant girls were present, but it wasn't something she could ask about. Miss Luo, don't worry. Everything is fine. As long as Miss Luo stays true to herself, everything will be resolved. It was true that Master Liaochen left a good impression, but why didn't she understand what he was saying? On the surface, it seemed very simple, but why did she feel like there was more to it? More importantly, Master Liaochen seemed to be able to see through people's hearts. He could give her plausible answers no matter what she was thinking. Meeting Jingwan's puzzled gaze, Master Liaochen smiled but didn't say anything. Miss Luo, you still need to rest. This poor monk will leave first. Jingwan hurriedly got up to see him out. Madame Luo and the others were worried that too many people would disturb Master Liaochen, so they waited outside. When they came out, Madame Luo hurriedly got up to ask about it. Even though Jingwan had already explained that she had been lucky and had fallen in a special place, she had managed to survive. After confirming that Jingwan was really all right, Madame Luo couldn't help but say, "It's really Buddha's blessing." This situation was so similar to what had happened 2 days ago that everyone couldn't help but wonder if Jingwan had offended someone, which was why she had been in trouble for the past 2 days. If you ask me, Miss Luo has always been kind. You're in a sacred place of Buddhism, so Buddha naturally has to protect you, a servant girl said. However, she might be able to gain favor at other times, but now was not the right time. After all, so many people had been injured, especially Sunny Jia. Didn't this mean that she was usually a vicious person? Otherwise, why would Buddha give her such a cruel punishment of disfigurement? More than one person looked at her coldly. The servant girl seemed to have realized what had happened, and her face instantly paled. That cliff was so steep. It's naturally Buddha's blessing that no one died, Jingwan said. Master Liaochen was still the same. He didn't say much and even smiled amiably. Luo Jingbo saw him off again. Although Madame Luo was exhausted, she still urged Jingwan to rest first. If grandmother doesn't rest first, how can your granddaughter rest in peace? Madame Luo couldn't dissuade Jingwan, but now she did feel relieved and relaxed. She felt tired, so she agreed. However, she didn't forget to remind the people around her to visit Yuan Xiaoqiao often. Although she didn't have any feelings for her, she was still her granddaughter. Jingwan washed up in the wing room next door. 2 days ago, she was attacked by Li Hongyuan at night, so the marks on her back were naturally seen by the servant girls. However, Nanny Gong easily fooled the servant girls who didn't know what had happened. They mistook the kiss marks on Jingwan's back, which had faded a lot, as scratches caused by falling down the cliff. Fortunately, Li Hongyuan's marks were all over the place. Otherwise, it would be hard to explain. Even if there were scratches, they wouldn't be little red marks. From this point of view, it seemed that she had to thank Li Hongyuan. Nanny Gong's face darkened. The servant girls naturally thought that she was worried about Jingwan's injury. Is the injury on her back serious? I don't feel anything. Nanny Gong was worried that if she continued to talk, Jingwan would have doubts, so she changed the topic. The wound on Jingwan's neck was carefully treated by Nanny Gong. However, in the process, Jingwan always felt that Nanny Gong's gaze was going to pierce through her neck. She felt a little scared for no reason. Well, Nanny, even if there will be a scar, it's nothing to care about. Could Nanny Gong tell her that what she cared about was not whether there would be a scar, but the way the scar was left? She was easy to fool. Indeed, there's nothing to care about. Although the king of hell was a bastard, he definitely wouldn't despise the girl just because she had a scar on her body. Moreover, this scar was caused by him. If he dared to have any thoughts about it in the future, Granny Gong might really fight him to the death. You're generous. Jingwan couldn't help but look at Nanny Gong. Why did the latter words sound so stiff? It looked no different from usual, but it felt weird. Nanny, miss, which of the 3 girls do you want to visit first? Nanny Gong knew her well. She couldn't sleep peacefully if she didn't check on them. Nanny, you changed the topic too abruptly. Shuang is still asleep, so I won't disturb her for the time being. I'll visit my cousin first, and then Sister Jia. In fact, she still didn't know how to face Sunny Jia. When Jingwan went out, she happened to meet the wife of Wu Anho's heir apparent. She was a newlywed and originally came to offer incense, but she didn't expect to encounter such an incident. Fortunately, Fu Yenting was fine. If a new widow came, then it would be. The wife of Wu Anho's heir apparent's family name was Wei. It didn't seem obvious now, but it was said that her ancestors were very prominent. Madame Wei was kind-hearted and had a straightforward personality. She had known Fu Yenting for a long time and could be said to be congenial. In the days after their marriage, they could be said to be in a good mood. She didn't expect to encounter such an incident. Although her husband wasn't injured, her bad mood naturally wouldn't come back easily. When she saw that Jingwan was standing, she was really relieved. Her husband felt guilty and uneasy because of a strange woman. Even if he knew what happened, he still cared a little. Now, he should let go of the knot in his heart. On the contrary, it was the Luo family that owed him. Don't blame her for being snobbish or calculating. It was just that Wu Anho's situation was very bad now. As long as she could do something that would benefit Wu Anho's heir apparent, she didn't mind losing face. She was a woman, so it was more convenient for her to do certain things than a man. At this time, when she saw Jingwan, the smile on her face was especially sincere. It's great that third Miss Luo is fine. I have to thank heir apparent Fu for being able to be safe and sound. Jingwan first bowed to Madame Wei. It was a formal bow. This time, Madame Wei was a little embarrassed. She was only 3 years older than Jingwan. Although 17 years old was a little late for marriage, because she was an old lady. It was one of the reasons why she was able to marry Fu Yenting. The officials of the Wei family were also military officials, so they didn't pay much attention to etiquette. However, they knew that Jingwan's bow was too formal. Although she was the wife of the heir apparent of Wu Anho's heir apparent. In fact, there weren't many people who would take her seriously. They might even mock and ridicule her. She wasn't sure if this Miss Luo was too good at being a person, or if she was sincere and not pretentious. You can't. Get up quickly. Both parties exchanged some pleasantries. Although there was nothing substantial, when Madame Wei left, both parties seemed to be quite happy. With the situation in Wu Anho's heir apparent, I don't know what will happen to the wife of the heir apparent in the future. Jingwan was quite emotional. Wu Anho's heir apparent may not be without any changes. It depends on whether Wu Anho's heir apparent could survive until Emperor Lu Cheng's death. It depends on the attitude of the next emperor towards Wu Anho's heir apparent. Jingwan understood Nurse Gong's unfinished words. In fact, what Nurse Gong wanted to say was, it depends on what the King of Hell thinks. Yuan Xiaoqiao's temporary guest room was just next door, separated by a wall. However, Yuan Xiaoqiao just happened to drink the medicine and fell asleep. Jingwan just looked at her pale sleeping face. Perhaps she hadn't recovered from the shock yet. Even though she had taken the sedative, she still couldn't sleep very well. She coughed from time to time. A lively and active girl who had a clear distinction between love and hate was lying here like this. She might be weak and sickly in the future. Take good care of her. If she needs anything, don't hesitate to find me over there. When she wakes up, send someone to inform me. Yes. The person who waited on Yuan Xiaoqiao responded. Zhou Shuang also stayed here. Jingwan naturally went to take a look. She asked some simple questions, and then went to Sun Yijia's place. Ding General Manor also had a fixed residence in White Dragon Temple. When the people of Ding General Manor came, they basically stayed there. It was some distance away from the Luo residence. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652957. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com mobile version reading website. bicken.com. Chapter 76. Sun Yijia's attention was on the flowers and trees in the courtyard. while everyone else's attention was on her. Naturally, they did not notice Jingwan's arrival. Jingwan stepped on a small branch beside her foot. Although the sound was soft, because the courtyard was quiet enough, almost everyone heard it and subconsciously turned their heads. Sun Yijia's dull eyes lit up. She opened her mouth to call out to her. But just as she opened her mouth, she subconsciously covered her face and let out a soft hiss. Her beautiful brows furrowed, and she pursed her lips. Obviously, because she suddenly opened her mouth, she had pulled on her wound. But other than that, she did not have any other emotions and waved at Jingwan. The moment Sun Yilin saw Jingwan, his gloomy eyes finally lit up. It seemed that other than some minor injuries, she was actually considered to be unharmed. He was happy from the bottom of his heart. Just as he was about to say something, he saw Jingwan squat down as a greeting, and then walked into the room. Sun Yilin looked at his sister again. Indeed, she was standing up and walking back into the room. "Miss Luo," Sun Yilin called out to her. Jingwan stopped in her tracks and looked at him. "Is something the matter, young master Sun? Although Yijia and you have only known each other for a short period of time. In fact, I have never seen her so close to any other girl. Even if it was her own sister to her, it was only on the surface. In reality, she was like a complete stranger. She is like a real sister to you. Now that she has met with such a disaster in the future, I hope that Miss Luo can console her. Sister Yijia treats me with sincerity, so I will naturally treat her with sincerity. You want the best for her, and I am no exception. Thus, there is no need for young master to say anything more. I will do my best." Sun Yilin nodded and did not say anything else. Jingwan walked straight into the room. Sun Yijia sat by the table and gestured for her to sit. Jingwan didn't care about etiquette or rules. She didn't even try to avoid it. She just looked straight at her face. For people who didn't know her well, this was indeed very rude. However, if people who were close to her blindly avoided it, that kind of subtle and deliberate indifference would be even more uncomfortable. Half of her face was covered by a white cloth, and a thin white thread wrapped around the top of her head and chin. The white thread was handled very carefully, and it covered up as much as possible. This was also the reason why Jingwan didn't see any obvious marks on the other side. Sun Yijia reached out and pulled her to sit down. She then waved her hand at the people serving her, indicating for them to leave. Jingwan understood that she wanted to talk to him alone, so he asked his men to leave. After all, Sun Yijia's wet nurse was still worried. Before she left, she couldn't help but say a few words. "It's not suitable for Miss Luo to speak for the time being. So Miss Luo," Sun Yijia reached out to stop her. It was obvious that she didn't want to listen to the nagging of the people around her. From the moment she was rescued, there had been chaos around her. First they cried helplessly. Then, they felt sorry for her and cursed the heavens and the earth. They repeatedly said what she should do in the future. Seeing that she was expressionless, they began to persuade her. They talked about her identity, and how she was doted on at home. Not only Duchess Ding, but also the old madam, and the Empress also liked her the most. Even if her face was hurt and disfigured, she would definitely have a good marriage. In the future, her husband's family would definitely not dare to treat her badly. Sun Yijia wasn't stupid. How could she not know what it meant to be disfigured? So what if they talked about it? Some things were already destined when the sharp stone cut her face. She didn't respond. Everyone thought that she was disheartened and depressed. In fact, that wasn't the case. Her tolerance wasn't that bad. On the contrary, her heart was almost strangely calm. She actually wanted to tell them that she was fine, but she knew that no one would believe her, including her fifth brother. Thus, she chose to remain silent. This kind of silence made the people around her feel more and more sorry for her. They even sympathized with her, forming a vicious cycle. In the end, under her cold gaze, everyone finally shut their mouths. However, everyone's silence was equally unbearable. Jingwan's arrival was her savior. "Sister Jia, are you okay?" Jingwan believed that she was good at judging people when she made a mistake. She always felt that Sun Yijia didn't seem to care about her disfigurement. Perhaps it was because she was too concerned, or perhaps it was a deep-rooted belief that a girl wouldn't care about her appearance. That was why the people around her were so nervous and careful. They didn't sense Sun Yi's true feelings at all. However, Jingwan wasn't very sure, so she asked directly. Sun Yi nodded without hesitation. Apart from the pain on her face and the bruises on her body, she was no different from usual. Jingwan heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. Sun Yi narrowed her eyes slightly and smiled. She took out the 4 treasures of the study from her room. After grinding them, she began to write. It's great that you're fine. I knew Sister Wan was different from others. You believed whatever I said and didn't think that I was pretending to be strong to comfort you. There's no need to lie about such things. If you really lost something you cared about, no matter if you threw a tantrum or stayed silent, because you were sad, there's nothing to blame you for. You don't have to suffer and suppress yourself for the sake of accommodating others. Others should be tolerant and understanding of you. Sun Yi nodded and wrote again. As expected, Sister Wan knows me best. As she wrote, she sighed silently. It's been more than 10 years. Why can't I compare to the few times we met? It's probably the so-called bosom friend. Sun Yi was stunned. Yeah, isn't it the so-called bosom friend? True bosom friends aren't the people closest to you. After seeing Sun Yi's state, Jingwan went straight to the point and went straight to the heart of the matter. Sister Jia, what are you going to do in the future? Sister Wan, when you harden your heart, you're really hurtful. The scar hasn't even formed a scab yet, but you're ruthlessly tearing it open again. You just have to face the cruelest reality. I just believe that Sister Jia isn't someone who would run away. Sun Yi looked at Jingwan's clear eyes that were filled with sincerity. She cared about her from the bottom of her heart. She cared only about her as a person, and not about the things that were attached to her. Sister Wan, do you know? My face shouldn't have been injured so badly. I did it on purpose. When I touched that sharp stone, I subconsciously tilted my head. I wasn't sure if I could avoid it if I tilted my head in the other direction, or if my face wouldn't be injured. At that time, my only thought was that if my face was gone, my value would also be gone. They wouldn't have to deliberately think about how to use me in exchange for the greatest benefits. Jingwan looked at the words on the paper. She reached out and rubbed it before throwing it into the incense burner. Sun Yi took out another piece of paper. Sister Wan, aren't you being too cautious? Jingwan didn't say anything. Instead, she took the brush and wrote. Who am I doing this for? If someone else saw this and your parents heard about it, would you have a good life? I didn't expect Sister Wan's handwriting to be so good. Jingwan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Is this the time to talk about this? I already don't have a good life. How bad can it be? She knew very well how the people in her family would react. The only people who truly cared about her were probably only a few: Wu Ge, her grandmother, her wet nurse, or the 2 maids who grew up with her. Even her mother, for herself, for her children and grandchildren, would still give her up even if she was her only daughter. The only thing that was better than the others was that they probably wouldn't humiliate her. If they still had a little bit of kinship and a little bit of conscience, they might marry her to a man who was barely passable, instead of purely making use of trash and squeezing out the last bit of value she had. Is it worth it? Was it worth it to go to such an extent and fall into the dust just to escape the fate of being controlled by her family, or to fight for a bit of pride? What if I say it's worth it? Jingwan nodded. Then it's worth it. Sister Wan, you're so good. This kind of behavior clearly deserved a harsh reprimand. She was rebellious. She didn't know what was good for her. She didn't know how to appreciate her good fortune. Her 5th brother wouldn't approve of this behavior. But Jingwan, if she said it was worth it, she would stand on her side without hesitation. You have to finish the path you chose even if you have to kneel. It's good that you don't regret it. Sister Wan, are you worried that I can't endure hardship? Actually, the situation is far from the worst. Wu Ge will always protect me, and grandmother won't ignore me. There will be more people who will mock and ridicule me if I don't have enough food and clothes. There will be fewer people who will order me around, and there will be more unruly servants. That's all. However, I'm afraid that in order to protect me, he will be threatened into making compromises. After all, he's a close official of the emperor, and has an advantage over others in many things. He's a man, and his talent isn't bad. Even if there are some troublesome matters, he can find a way to deal with it himself. Moreover, a man needs to know when to yield and when to stand tall. It's not a bad thing to use these things as training. When he can easily deal with the schemes of his family, why should he be afraid of those outside? Moreover, you're his biological sister. It's only right for him to protect you and do things for you. Since you're related by blood in this life, since your relationship is harmonious, you should cherish it and protect it. Sister Juan, what you mean is that I don't need to feel guilty if he makes compromises and forgives for me. On the contrary, I can order him around as much as I want. If he helps me, that's what he should do. If he doesn't, then he's incompetent, right? That's what you mean, right? Sunny Jia looked at her with sparkling eyes like a child's. She was a little excited, as if she had discovered something incredible, and was waiting for her approval. In the words of her previous life, she was asking for praise. Jingwan felt helpless again. The more she interacted with Sunny Jia, the more she felt that she was seriously inconsistent with the rumors. She looked arrogant on the outside, but was actually very rebellious on the inside. She was also a little naughty. In the past, perhaps she had been hiding it so well that even she didn't realize it. Jingwan wasn't sure if she had revealed this side of her. If she had, then she had really sinned. She knew that Sunny Jia was deliberately misinterpreting her words. Looking at her little expression and the wound on her face, she looked pitiful. Jingwan braced herself and nodded. You can understand it that way. Seeing her squinting her eyes like a little fox, Jingwan silently mourned for Sun Yilin in her heart. If he was tricked by her sister in the future, please don't blame it on her. Since Sunny Jia was prepared to face the future, Jingwan didn't say anything more. It was meaningless. Jingwan looked at her face again. In the future, don't do this kind of thing again. It wasn't good to hurt oneself to achieve one's goal. This time, it was just a coincidence. I just made the disaster that I couldn't avoid more serious. I never thought of doing it on purpose. Sister Jia, it's good that you know. Sister Juan, are you worried that I will do something extreme if I encounter something in the future? No, just like what you told me before. It's okay to cry occasionally, but you have to find the right person to cry to. You have to cry to the person who cares about you. It's the same principle. If you lose your value, even if you die, some people may not shed a single tear. Young Miss Duchess Ding is here. Suddenly, Mama Gong's voice sounded from outside. Sunny Jia was stunned. Although she knew that someone would come, she didn't expect her mother to come in person. In Sunny Jia's opinion, the most likely person to come was her sister-in-law. Taking advantage of the time, Jingwan quickly put away all the used papers on the table. She didn't hide them, and just casually covered them with white paper. She would take them away later. She calmly drank tea and ate her tea. She didn't feel guilty or flustered at all because she had done something bad. Sunny Jia felt ashamed of herself for being inferior to her calmness. After that, the people who were chased out by Sunny Jia came in one after another. If the madam came and saw that all the servants were outside, she would definitely be at the front. Then a large group of people came in. Sunny Jia suddenly felt that she was overthinking. She originally thought that her mother actually cared about her daughter very much, but in fact that wasn't the case. Her sisters-in-law were all here. What was going on? Were they here to laugh at her? Even if these so-called sisters-in-law wanted to come in the name of caring for her sister-in-law, as long as her mother's attitude was firm, she could completely refuse them. Her sisters-in-law didn't have the guts to disobey her mother. Oh my, did our sister Jia really hurt her face? What should we do? A young woman who was dressed very solemnly and gorgeously was the first to enter the room. Her tone and expression were unmistakably concerned, but the gloating in her eyes was too obvious. She poked Sunny Jia's face with her long fingernails. Sunny Jia evaded her with an expressionless face and looked coldly at her fourth sister-in-law. Obviously, Sunny Jia was still high and mighty and arrogant, even though her face was disfigured. This made the young woman furious. She lowered her voice and said, "Sister-in-law, I'd like to see how long Sister Jia, who has turned into an ugly monster, can remain arrogant." Fourth sister-in-law, mother is here. It's your turn to walk in front. A group of people came in later, and another woman behind Duchess Ding spoke up. Oh mother, don't be angry. Your daughter-in-law was just worried about Sister Jia for a moment. I definitely didn't. Enough. Duchess Ding waved her hand impatiently, and then her gaze fell on Sunny Jia. She looked at her face. Although there was concern and worry, it was very limited. There were more complicated expressions mixed with all kinds of emotions. Sunny Jia greeted her with a cold expression, just like how she usually greeted her mother. Duchess Ding's lips moved, but there were some words that she didn't say out loud. Before she came, she had already had a fierce argument with Duchess Ding about her. In the end, she compromised. Since you're injured, take good care of yourself. Don't think so much. Duchess Ding was about to ask Sunny Jia's wet nurse about the specific condition of the injury on her face, and whether it was really impossible for her to recover. However, she inadvertently found that there was an outsider here. Seeing that there was a white cloth wrapped around her neck, she was one of the girls who had an accident. Which family are you from? Although Jingwan had been to Duke Ding's mansion, the only person who had an impression of her was Sun Yijia's eldest sister-in-law. She was usually smooth and slick, but at this time, she chose to remain silent. Jingwan of the Luo family greets Duchess Ding. When everyone heard this, the expressions on their faces were a little subtle. Duchess Ding's eyes were even a little unfriendly. You're the one who asked Big Sister Jia to come out? Why is Big Sister Jia's face hurt? Why are you standing there? Oh, by the way, it seems that you fell into the river below. You're really lucky and tough. That pair of beautiful eyes now had an irritating look of scrutiny. She looked at Jingwan, as if she was looking at something strange. Jingwan knew very well that there was definitely more than one person who had similar thoughts. It was nothing more than venting their anger, and giving them a target to vent their anger. However, Jingwan's good temper was also relatively speaking. If you treated her with courtesy, she would naturally treat you equally. Jingwan glanced at the others. There were many people who wanted to watch a good show, including Duchess Ding, who looked indifferent. However, Sun Yijia's face was a little ugly, and anger appeared in her eyes. Seeing that she was about to lose her temper, Jingwan spoke first. May I ask if you're speaking on behalf of Duke Ding's mansion or yourself? The other party was stunned. Obviously, she didn't expect Jingwan to react like this. So what if I'm speaking on behalf of Duke Ding's mansion? So what if I'm speaking on behalf of myself? Her expression became contemptuous. In her opinion, there was no difference between the two. Duchess Ding frowned slightly, and looked at Jingwan with her eyes wide open. She suddenly felt a sharp spirit from this indifference. If I'm speaking on behalf of Duke Ding's mansion, then I'll take some time to go to Duke Ding's mansion, and ask your old madam, if the rules of your family are different from those of other families. How can you be so presumptuous and rude? When she said this, her eyes were still very calm as she looked at Duchess Ding calmly. In the entire Duke Ding's mansion, the person with the highest status was old Madame Sunday. It was normal to directly ignore Duchess Ding. Not to mention Duchess Ding. The faces of the large group of people who had just come in became a little ugly. This slap didn't just land on one person's face. Sun Yijia's fourth sister-in-law's face was the ugliest. She secretly glanced at Duchess Ding's face. She wanted to use this mother-in-law to teach this B***TCH, who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth a lesson. However, if this matter was implemented, she would be stripped alive. Of course, I'm speaking on behalf of myself. So what? Oh, on behalf of yourself? Jingwan answered in a low voice with a little carelessness. She brushed the cuff of her right hand with her left hand, and looked down at her palm. Her intention to hit someone was so obvious that the woman subconsciously took a step back. Slap. A crisp sound shocked everyone. The woman covered her face, and tilted her head to look at Sun Yijia in disbelief. Yes, it was not Jingwan who hit her, but Sun Yijia. The woman subconsciously raised her hand, and wanted to hit back. Sun Yijia's face was indifferent. She even raised her head slightly, and showed her injured face, so that it would be easier for her to hit back. If she really hit back, no matter who was in the right, it would be unreasonable. The woman had to clench her fingers, and withdraw her hand angrily. What's wrong? You don't dare to fight back? Sun Ijia opened and closed her mouth very slightly to avoid pulling the injury on her face as much as possible. After that, she slapped her again. This time, everyone was so shocked that they couldn't close their mouths. Although Sun Ijia's personality was usually cold, she was definitely the role model for many young ladies in the capital. No one dared to imagine that one day she would hit someone, because when this scene was played out, it could be imagined how great the shock it caused was. Ijia. Duchess Ding looked at Sun Ijia and frowned even more. Obviously, although Sun Ijia's behavior also surprised her, she was more angry. How could the daughter she taught be so rude? Unfortunately, her daughter, who used to do whatever she said and would immediately admit and correct her mistakes when she said she was wrong and do her best, didn't even look at her now. Sun Ijia's eyes were filled with unprecedented strong emotions. With hostility, she stared at her sister-in-law like a poisonous snake. Fourth sister-in-law, you don't know, right? Sister 1 originally planned to come to White Dragon Temple today, but I brought forward the time to yesterday afternoon. According to what you said, am I not the scourge? Among the 4 people in the carriage, I was the least injured. You are all cursing in your hearts why I didn't fall to my death directly, right? I let you down. Who told me to be so lucky? Even if you all died, it wouldn't be my turn. Because she deliberately lowered her voice, she even sounded like a malicious ghost who wanted to take people's lives. It was really frightening that a person who didn't get angry suddenly got angry. Ijia, look at yourself now. Why don't you shut up? Sun Ijia suddenly turned her head to look at Duchess Ding. What do I look like? If I'm not the same as what you think, it's naturally not good. Mother, don't think that I don't know what you and my father are thinking and what you want to do. I'm already like this. As she spoke, she covered her injured face with tears in her eyes. Anyway, I have nothing left. If anyone dares to insult me, don't blame me for doing something that will make Duke Ding's mansion lose face and make you regret it for the rest of your life. Ijia. Perhaps Sun Ijia had hit the nail on the head. When she saw Sun Ijia's disheartened look, her heart began to ache. After all, she was her only daughter. Although she had done her best to cultivate her for a purpose, she had still put in a lot of effort. Don't be silly. Who would dare to abuse you? Don't do anything stupid, okay? Sun Ijia coldly twitched the corner of her mouth, making it clear that she didn't believe it. Duchess Ding suddenly felt helpless to her daughter and couldn't help but soften her tone. Come home with me first, okay? We can talk about it when we get back. Go back. You'll ground me when we get back lest I, an ugly person, go out and be pointed at and humiliated? Or do you want to go all the way and marry me off far away so that I can never step into the capital again? Why do you think so? Isn't that so? Mother, do you dare to swear that you and father don't have such plans? Swear on the lives of your children and grandchildren. If you lie, you'll have no descendants. Duchess Ding could no longer maintain her composure. Her eyes were burning with anger. Sun Ijia, how can you say such vicious words? Your brothers doted on you for nothing. Your nephews like you so much. How can you curse them? I'm vicious? I just want you to swear on them. If you and father really don't have such plans, you'll have a clear conscience. Duchess Ding was suddenly speechless and couldn't say anything. You have nothing to say? Tears fell from Sun Ijia's eyes as she recounted her endless grievances and sorrow. You abandoned me first. You didn't want me first. You used to hold me in the palm of your hand and always gave me the best because I was valuable. You didn't raise a daughter, but a precious object, waiting for the day to exchange for the greatest benefits for you. But after all, you gave birth to me and raised me. I should repay you. So I did whatever you asked me to do without any complaints. But now, my face is ruined and I'm worthless. Not only do you not pity me or comfort me, but you also sprinkle salt on my wound. It's said that kittens and puppies will develop feelings for each other after being raised for a long time. I feel that I'm not even as good as a kitten or puppy. The more she spoke, the more indignant she became. Jingwan had been looking at her coldly before, but when she saw Sun Ijia's face begin to bleed again, she hurried forward and said, Sister Jia, don't say it. Don't say it. Duchess Ding stood there in a daze. She probably never thought that her daughter would have such thoughts in her heart. But there seemed to be nothing wrong with what she said. Because of this, she was deeply touched. Thinking about herself, wasn't she like this all her life? Was she wronged at that time? Was she resentful? She knew that kind of sorrow, but she still heartlessly wanted her daughter to repeat it? Jingwan's anxious voice woke her up. Ija, it's my fault. I won't abandon you. I promise you that that day will never come. Believe me, okay? Duchess Ding couldn't help but cry. It wasn't that she hadn't cried all these years, but she cried in front of Duke Ding. Her heart was cold and hard at that time. But now she was really crying for her daughter and for herself. Sun Yijia shook off her hand and buried her head in Jingwan's neck. Mother, you can go out first. I want to be alone for a while. Okay. I'll listen to you. Don't talk anymore. Be careful of pain. It's not good to bleed too much. She wanted to say be careful of her face, but she was worried that it would touch her heart again. However, she was worried about leaving just like that. Madam, you might as well go out first. Leave Sister Jia to me. I'll persuade her. Jingwan said when she saw that she was at a loss. At this moment, she really cared about Sun Yijia. Okay, I'll have to trouble you, Miss Luo. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652958. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website mbicken.com. Chapter 77. After the irrelevant people left, Jingwan couldn't be bothered to comfort Sun Yijia anymore. Older sister Jia, let me take a look at your wound. Sun Yijia, on the other hand, obediently allowed Jingwan to press her down to sit on the stool. Jingwan lifted her head and used a handkerchief to carefully wipe away the tears on her face. She then untied the white thread and gently lifted the white cloth. She saw the deep wound with the edges turned outwards. Blood was seeping out again. It was truly a bit frightening. Jingwan frowned. Bear with it. What are you standing there for? Hurry and bring the medicine over. The wet nurse and servant girl finally recovered from their shock and hurriedly brought the medicine, white cloth, scissors, and other things to Jingwan. Jingwan's movements were gentle, steady, and quick. By the time she wrapped the wound with the white cloth again, the entire process didn't take long. All right, you must be careful. Don't be as agitated as you were just now. Otherwise, who knows when this wound will heal. She smoothed the slightly wrinkled white cloth again. Only then did she notice that Sun Yijia had been looking up at her with an unusually focused gaze. She used her finger to scratch the tip of Sun Yijia's nose. Why are you looking at me like that? Could it be that you admire me? She joked. That's right. Younger sister Wan is so nice and gentle. It's so easy to admire you. It's a pity that younger sister Wan isn't a man. Otherwise, even if I'm disfigured, I'll shamelessly stick to you and think of a way to marry you. You're really so arrogant just because I said you're fat? If I were a man, would I still be so close to you? Of course, you don't know anything about me. Admiration is a big joke. Alright, don't talk anymore. Your face is still bleeding. It's fine. I'll speak softly. It won't affect my face. I just want to talk to younger sister Wan right now. Sun Yijia simply reached out and hugged her waist. She used the side of her face that wasn't injured to rub against Jingwan's chest coquettishly. Jingwan was speechless. She had never heard of a person's mind deteriorating when their face was injured. However, whether it was illness or other reasons, those who were in poor health would always be a little delicate. Jingwan wasn't really a 14-year-old girl. Although Sun Yijia was older than her, Jingwan actually treated her as a younger sister. Wasn't it natural for her to coax her younger sister? He let her hug him and stroked her hair from time to time. He was extremely patient and gentle. The maidservants serving by the side may not have felt anything, but Sun Yijia's wet nurse was greatly moved. Miss Luo was not only playing the role of a close friend, but also the role of an elder sister, or even a mother. At this moment, she suddenly understood what her young lady lacked. Thinking about what her young lady said to the madam before, She could not help but feel extremely distressed. Perhaps her young lady had always been suffering in her heart, but she had never realized it. Now, she was unprecedentedly grateful to the third young lady of the Luo family. We always thought that my younger sister was cold and didn't like to get close to others. Now it seems that we were wrong. It's obvious that we didn't do enough. Our indifference made her heart cold. Under the pagoda tree in the courtyard outside, Sun Yilin stood beside Duchess Ding. Through the window, he saw that his younger sister was so attached to an outsider. At the same time, he felt slightly bitter in his heart, but at the same time, he yearned for the warmth between them. Miss Luo and my younger sister have only known each other for a few days. What does this mean? Third Miss Luo's methods are too good, and she's too good at pleasing others. So, she can even easily win over someone like my younger sister? Or is my younger sister an ungrateful wretch? Mother, your first reaction is similar, right? No. Duchess Ding denied it quickly and anxiously. Sun Yilin chuckled. He was one of the most romantic figures in the whole capital. His laughter was naturally very lethal. Many maids around him blushed. However, Duchess Ding, who was standing beside him, felt that he was mocking her. For some reason, there was a little helplessness and sadness in his laughter. She wanted to say something more, but she couldn't open her mouth and didn't know what to say. She had always been a strict and strong mother. She would only tell her children what to do, rather than patiently listen to their inner thoughts, and then explain it to them in a soft voice. Mother, do you know why my younger sister proposed to come to White Dragon Temple in advance? It's because of me. Because I want to come. I have to rush back today, and work for His Majesty tomorrow. Duchess Ding looked at him. She was not a person who could be easily fooled. If he really just wanted to come to White Dragon Temple, he could invite his friends instead of following them on the pretext of protecting his younger sister. He also wouldn't use his younger sister's mouth to lead a group of girls to travel in advance. Why? She thought of a possibility. Mother, according to fourth sister-in-law's words, the one who caused yesterday's incident is the culprit. If that's the case, am I the one with the toughest fate? In fact, I also think this is the most reasonable. After all, I blocked my eldest brother's way and covered the light of all the other brothers, making them pearls covered in dust. See, I am such a bane to my brothers and sisters. Sun Yilin answered the question very calmly. Nonsense. I know whether you blocked your eldest brother's way or not. As for the others, what pearls covered in dust? They are clearly a group of stubborn stones. It has nothing to do with you. Nonsense. When fourth sister-in-law said so, Mother, you didn't say that she was talking nonsense. Instead, you seemed to agree with what she said. You can't have a completely different attitude just because it's your son now. You don't have to be so obvious when you help your relatives instead of reason. Duchess Ding's lips trembled as she looked at her beloved son. Yilin, I know that you blame your father and me because of what happened to your sister. Are you going to talk to me like this just because of that? Aren't you cutting my heart with a knife? Sun Yilin still smiled. Mother, what's wrong with you? You make it sound so serious. Look, am I not the same as usual? It's not good to be different from what you think. Duchess Ding suddenly thought of what her daughter had said just now. When she heard her son's words, she almost covered her chest with her hand. Unconsciously, she and her children had been so estranged from each other. Mother, don't be like this. Several sisters-in-law are still watching over there. Maybe they will think that I have done something disgraceful, and then spread it everywhere. My good reputation will be severely tarnished. The crime of being unfilial is really too serious. Duchess Ding subconsciously restrained the expression on her face. Sun Yilin's smile became gentler. Duchess Ding inexplicably felt that her son was a little scary. Mother, you just asked me why. I'll tell you now. It's because I like the third miss of the Luo family. I want to get as close to her as possible, while I still have some time. Let me guess. Are you saying in your heart that the third miss of the Luo family is really not a good person? It's obvious that she wants to use Ijia as a springboard to seduce me. Looking at her unpredictable expression, Sun Yilin smiled helplessly. You're the only one who treats your son as a treasure. Maybe in other people's hearts, I'm just a grass. My son is so outstanding. It's normal for any girl to like him. Yes. So it's normal for the third miss of the Luo family to like him. Even if she wants to get close to me through my sister, it's reasonable. Unfortunately, the only impression I give her is probably that I'm the brother of her good sister. Mother, are you thinking again? Who does she think she is? Why can't she like my son? Duchess Ding's face turned pale when her thoughts were guessed again and again. Last night, Mother and Father discussed it for a long time. There are some bruises around your eyes. Maybe you didn't sleep all night. After my sister has no value in marriage, you will not let go of my marriage easily. The reason why I tell you this is to let you be mentally prepared. Unless the third miss of the Luo family is unwilling, I will marry no one but her. If you agree, everyone will be happy. If you don't agree, I naturally have to do something to achieve my goal. Originally, before my sister's accident, I wanted to take it slowly, but I suddenly realized that if my methods are too gentle, others will think that you are a pushover. Mother, don't try to secretly ruin the reputation of the third miss of the Luo family, and don't think about doing the same thing. Using Cousin Ryu's hands, you will embarrass those girls who you don't like, but try to get close to me. You know, Cousin Ryu is now so hated among the noble ladies in the capital. Mother, you have to take at least half of the responsibility. Mother, I admit that your methods are good, but in my opinion, it's still a bit crude. In the past, I would intervene and stop you whenever I saw you. Most of the time, I pretended not to know and just tried to avoid those girls as much as possible, because you are my mother and Ryu is my cousin, and they are just outsiders. But after all, they are innocent. It's just because they are in love for the first time. And they gave me gifts in a roundabout way to avoid private dealings. They didn't do anything immoral or intolerable. I hope that Mother can be merciful in the future. And if the same method is used on third Miss Luo, I probably won't just stop her. You have to understand your son, after all, it's not easy for me to fall in love with her. Duchess Ding suddenly felt that she was like a clown in her son's eyes. At the same time, her son was not really obedient and docile. He just hid his sharp claws and teeth. Once he showed them, it might be as simple as seeing blood. I know that once I take a liking to her, it will probably be for the rest of my life. So, I don't care about her reputation, I don't care about her appearance, and I don't even care if she is a virgin. Even if I die, I will marry her memorial tablet. This was a real threat. Even if Duchess Ding really wanted to do something, she didn't dare to do it. If her son really wanted her, and she really married into Duke Ding's mansion in the future, the more unbearable she was, the more others would only laugh at Duke Ding's mansion and her son. What I'm going to do next may make my brother feel threatened. Mother, you might as well tell him and Father directly that I'm not interested in Duke Ding's mansion. But if he really doesn't believe it and insists on making trouble for me, and Father tries his best to suppress me, then don't blame me for being impolite and really competing with him. Over the years, I have endured enough. If one day we really kill each other, it will be because of them. Duchess Ding looked at him. Before they set off yesterday, he was still a familiar person. In the blink of an eye, he had become so unfamiliar. Her son had really grown up, and his wings were full. She could no longer hold him in the palm of her hand. She didn't know whether she should be happy or disappointed. Sun Yilin glanced at the people in the room again. Let my sister recuperate in White Dragon Temple. When she returns to Duke Ding's mansion, her wound will heal slowly. No one in the world will feel sorry for her. But there will always be one person who will. I'll go back first. With that, he bowed to Duchess Ding. Without waiting for her response, he turned around and left. He was straightforward and ruthless. Sun Yijia had enough of being in Jingwan's arms. She raised her head, and happened to see Sun Yilin's back as he left, as well as her mother's side profile, which looked like she had lost her soul. I don't know what my fifth brother said, but Mother seems to have been provoked quite a bit. You were not to be outdone before. Sun Yijia wanted to say something, but she saw that the maids in the room were still in a daze after being provoked just now. They had been serving her with all their might before, and were also loyal. But now the situation was different. It was not a good choice to continue to follow her master, who had no future. If they still followed her wholeheartedly, then she would do her best to find a good home for them. If they had other thoughts, then they should leave as soon as possible and go their separate ways. All of you go out. Madam was still outside. Wouldn't it be asking for trouble if they left Miss out at this time? It turns out that you are serving me on the surface, but in fact, you are just listening to my mother's words? Sun Ijia said softly enough for the maids to hear. They wanted to hurriedly deny it, but their master did not give them a chance to speak. Get out. She flipped the table. Seeing that Sun Ijia was angry, they were all frightened. The wet nurse was the calmest. To put it bluntly, she had raised Sun Ijia as her own daughter. When Sun Ijia suffered, she felt more distressed than anyone else. Even if her temperament had changed greatly now, she thought it was reasonable. Without saying anything, she took the lead to crouch down and leave. With someone taking the lead, the other maids felt as if they had been pardoned. It was still the same saying that it was terrible when a person who was not angry suddenly became angry. Sun Ijia used Jingwan to block the view of the people outside and blinked at Jingwan. Did I pretend well? Jingwan poked her forehead. You know it in your heart. Don't wait for me to expose you. It was normal for a person to become gloomy, irritable, or ruthless when they encountered a big change. Jingwan actually agreed with Sun Ijia's decision to cover herself with such a layer of protection. As the saying goes, the soft is afraid of the hard is afraid of the reckless is afraid of the unreasonable, and the unreasonable is afraid of the reckless. As long as Sun Ijia was willing to risk everything, how many people in Ding General Manor were willing to risk their lives? Probably none. In this way, she could be the king of Ding General Manor. Who would dare to humiliate her? However, this also needed a process. Sun Ijia was not a person who could act. When she confronted her mother before, if she did not have real feelings as the foundation and burst out her inner thoughts, she could not achieve the effect if she just pretended. Her fourth sister-in-law was purely a bitch who was asking for a beating. Sun Ijia's eyes dimmed. Sister Wan, I'm very sad. I'm really sad. You knew this from the beginning. Now you just exposed it. After being sad, life will go on as usual. Sister Wan, you're so heartless. Sun Ijia's sadness was ruthlessly dispersed by Jingwan, so she looked at her with an accusing face. That's not it. There are more heartless things to come. So if you don't want to be hurt by my ruthlessness, stay away from me as soon as possible. But I've been trapped in your gentleness and can't extricate myself. Even if you suddenly become ruthless, I've decided not to marry for the rest of my life, and to rely on you for the rest of my life. What does your marriage have to do with relying on me for the rest of your life? However, Jingwan suddenly thought that Sun Ijia's idea could be realized. She could marry into Ding General Manor. Looking at Sun Ijia's expression, she seemed to. Don't think too much. I'm serious. Sister Wan, you know what I mean, right? My fifth brother, he. Jingwan pressed a finger on her lips. Your mother is already here. I think people from the Luo family should also be here. I'll go back and take a look. What you need to do now is to obediently recover from your injuries. Eat and sleep as you should. When you return to the capital, you won't have a peaceful life. Sun Ijia saw that Jingwan was firm, and knew that there was no point in continuing to persuade her. I'll walk you out. Okay. Jingwan didn't forget to roll up the paper she had written before, and put it in her sleeve to take away. The two of them walked out arm in arm. The people who were whispering in the courtyard immediately shut their mouths, and secretly looked over. It was obvious that they were talking bad about her just now. Sun Ijia carried her noble and cold demeanor. Compared to before, she was no longer cold when looking at people. Instead, she was gloomy. Mother, Sister Jia's temper is not good now. Not only did she hit people, but she also smashed things. If outsiders know about it, I don't know what they will say about our Ding General Manor. Sun Ijia's fourth sister-in-law still had red marks on her face. Obviously, the two slaps just now made her resentment and hatred almost to the sky. Enough. If it weren't for your mouth, would Ijia have hit you? You'd better behave yourself in the future, or I'll have someone slap you directly. Duchess Ding looked at her coldly. Her mouth not only implicated her daughter, but also her most outstanding son. Sure enough, she was too tolerant in daily life, so they dared to be so unscrupulous. She was just the daughter-in-law of a concubine's son. How dare she try to climb over her daughter? However, she had a good-looking sister-in-law. Did she think that without her daughter above her, that little B***tch could stand out? She was really too stupid. She was actually compromised by a few words from the Duke. Whatever concubine's daughter, she was still her daughter. As long as she married well, she could be of help to her son, and also to the Empress. But the fact was, nothing had happened yet, and she was so arrogant that she dared to step on her daughter in front of her. If those B***cheese of a concubine really got up, who knew how arrogant they would be? They enjoyed everything her daughter had, and even turned around to bite her daughter. In that case, why should she help them up? B***cheese would be B***cheese for a lifetime. Considering that they were also the Duke's daughters, she was already very kind to them, by not letting them be like their B***th concubine. Under her nose, they wanted to climb up the social ladder? They wanted to replace her daughter? In their dreams. As daughters-in-law, they had been scolded by their mother-in-law before. But at this moment, her mother-in-law seemed to be colder than before. Sun Ija's sister-in-law couldn't help shivering and didn't dare to speak again. But her lowered eyes contained deep hatred. She deserved it. She ran into Sun Yilin. Since Sun Yilin cared about Jingwan, he naturally wouldn't let others bully her. Although he didn't go in, he heard everything that happened in the room just now. The situation didn't allow him to do so, so he restrained himself. But it didn't mean that he couldn't deal with the sister-in-law, who was dispensable in his eyes. As long as he insulted himself a little, his mother would trample that so-called sister-in-law to death. Don't blame him for being despicable and shameless. He was even more calculative with a woman. A man who couldn't even protect the person he liked. Could he still be considered a real man? What's more, Duchess Ding, who had been provoked by her children, was helpless in front of them. The others were just right for her to vent her anger. Whoever ran into them first would die. Ijia. In the blink of an eye, Duchess Ding became a loving mother again. But she didn't know what to say to Sun Ijia now. Sun Ijia curled the corners of her mouth sarcastically. She was used to seeing her mother flaunt her power. It was the first time that her mother protected her so unabashedly when she did something wrong. Mother, you are very familiar with this place. Help yourself. I'll send Sister One away first. Her daughter, who used to be well-behaved and obedient, suddenly seemed to have changed into a different person. Her words were always harsh and sarcastic. No one would feel good in their heart. However, because of this, Duchess Ding thought that her actions had hurt her daughter's heart. Instead, she cared more about her daughter's thoughts. Duchess Ding glanced at Jingwan. She now had very complicated feelings about Jingwan. Her children's hearts had been hooked by her. Such a person probably didn't want her to be her daughter-in-law. If her son was partial to his daughter-in-law in everything, it would be strange if she, as a mother, felt good. But now the situation was that her son protected her, and even threatened to marry no one but her. Her daughter needed her, and didn't give a good face to anyone except her. As a mother, she had to put her aside. She was even more terrible than those seductive vixens. Jingwan felt that Duchess Ding's eyes were getting weirder and weirder. Did something happen that she didn't know about? Sister Jia, you don't have to send me off. Have a good talk with your mother. How can there be overnight hatred between mother and daughter? If you keep it in your heart, you'll never be able to get the right answer. However, your mother is different. She has decades of experience, and has seen many things. Even if your thoughts aren't accepted by the world, she's the one who gave birth to you after carrying you for 10 months. You're her flesh and blood. Naturally, she won't be heartless and ignore your feelings. She'll give you her opinion, and even if it's not what you want, she'll still be able to guide you. It'll be beneficial for your entire life. Sun Yijia didn't expect that before leaving, Jingwan could still say such words. This was not only said to her, but also to her mother. It would be a lie to say that she wasn't grateful. No daughter wanted to quarrel with her parents like they were enemies. This was not only a matter of filial piety, but also a relationship of more than 10 years. How could she give it up so easily? Jingwan also saw this point, so she said such words. Moreover, with the protection of Duchess Ding, Sun Yijia's life would be much better. Well, I'll go first. Jingwan patted her hand and bowed to Duchess Ding. Goodbye. Duchess Ding was both shocked and touched. Her impression of Jingwan changed again, becoming more and more complicated and indescribable. They didn't look away until Jingwan disappeared from their sight, and then looked at each other at the same time. Sun Yijia was still a little angry, and turned her face away awkwardly. Yijia, are you really going to treat me like this all the time? I know I'm wrong and I've wronged you, but fortunately, it hasn't happened yet. There's still a chance to change. Won't you even give me this chance? I promise you that those things won't happen. You're still the most honorable legitimate daughter of Duke Ding's mansion. You're the apple of my eye. No one can belittle you. Yijia, Duchess Ding said and reached out to pull her. Sun Yijia hesitated for a while. Finally, she couldn't help but throw herself into Duchess Ding's arms and cry uncontrollably. Mother! Don't cry, don't cry. Be careful of the wound. Duchess Ding kept comforting her, but she also made her cry. The mother and daughter cried together, and the servants also shed tears, but some of them almost tore the handkerchief in their hands. The current situation was definitely not what they wanted to see. If they didn't trample on Sun Yijia, how could they seek benefits? However, in the face of Duchess Ding, they were helpless. As the culprit, Jingwan was naturally hated. The third miss of the Luo family is really extraordinary. At such a young age, her wisdom and insight are really shameful. The second sister-in-law of the Sun family, who had always been taciturn, said to her eldest sister-in-law, "The first time I saw her, I felt that this girl was far beyond her peers. Now it seems that I have underestimated her. Eldest sister-in-law, if she enters the gate of Duke Ding's mansion, she will be a big threat to you." Although they didn't hear what Sun Yilin's mother-in-law and uncle said before, they, who had been paying attention to them, caught Sun Yilin's occasional look. Same to you. Digression. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/6652959. HTML. Click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. Please wait patiently after reporting and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicon.com. Bicon.com mobile version reading website, mbicon.com. Chapter 78. Not to mention Sun Yijia and her mother. When Jingwan returned to the Luo family, as expected, the Luo family, Yuan family, and Zhou family had all arrived. The ones leading them were the three young ladies' old mothers. Presumably, these families had either made an appointment or coincidentally followed behind Ding Guogongfu. As such, no one could find fault. When Zhangshi saw Jingwan, she began to cry. "You're not allowed to cry," Jingwan said helplessly. Zhangshi's tears that were about to fall were held back by her. She looked at Jingwan with reddened eyes, looking somewhat pitiful. If it was the first time she saw it, she probably couldn't help but soften. But Jingwan had long been immune to her appearance. "Mother, I'm very tired and sleepy right now. I'm going to sleep for a while. I haven't eaten Mother's cooking for so many years. Why don't Mother take advantage of this time to make some for me? Wait for me to get up to eat, okay?" Okay. Zhangshi quickly nodded. "Quickly go to sleep." Jingwan smiled. After Zhangshi left, she finally showed her fatigue. "Mama, when I came back, which family did I see those people? They should be the family of the Prime Minister, Ruan Darren. I forgot to tell Miss that at that time, it was that evil creature that first collided with the carriage of Ruan Darren's daughter. Miss Ruan's carriage went down from the mountain. Although it was closer to the inside, it still fell off the cliff. After Miss Ruan was thrown out of the carriage, she happened to land on a clump of vines. Therefore, she wasn't seriously injured, but she seemed to be frightened and didn't wake up. Wan Fengfei, who is as famous as Jia Jiejie? This is great. In the capital, other than those daughters of the imperial family, the two most valuable, and also the most outstanding young ladies were injured together. I don't know what will happen. Fortunately, Jia Jiejie didn't care much about the disfigurement. However, with the assassination of Jin Qinwang as a front, she thought that this matter wouldn't stir up any waves. Forget it. It's not my turn to care about this matter. Jingwan rubbed her temples. She went back to her room and asked the maid to help her change her clothes. Buddhism was a sacred place, so she had to be a little careful. Although it was not so comfortable to sleep in clothes, she fell asleep soon after she lay on the bed. Jingwan slept all the way until it was time to light the lantern. She slept very soundly and showed no signs of waking up, which scared the group of people again. They thought that there was some hidden injury that they could not see. Madame Zhang had also brought the house doctor, so there was no need to trouble Great Master Liaochen. Fortunately, the house doctor was certain that Jingwan had fallen asleep due to exhaustion. Once she had enough sleep, she would naturally wake up. After Jingwan woke up, her spirit came back. She only felt hungry. As soon as she woke up, Qing Lan, who was guarding beside her, naturally noticed it immediately. "Miss, you're finally awake. Well, prepare some food. I'm hungry," Jingwan ordered as she got up and washed. "Before you fell asleep, didn't you say that you wanted to eat the food made by Madam? Madam made a lot, but you didn't wake up." Then she made it again and again several times. She hoped that you could eat the most delicious food when you wake up. "Now it should be ready," Qing Lan explained. Jingwan suddenly felt a little guilty. She originally just wanted to send Madame Zhang away and find something for her to do, so that she would not be sad and distressed. She did not want her to be busy all the time. Hearing the movement in the room, people outside came in one after another. Soon, Madame Zhang came in with the food in person. "Wan, you're finally awake. You must be hungry. Hurry up and taste it. I don't know if the food I made now is to your taste." She probably also knew about Jingwan's situation, so she did not care about her injury. "Mother, you've worked hard. As long as it's made by you, I like it. It's not hard. If you like it, eat more." Madame Zhang sat at the side and watched her eat. From time to time, she would pick up food for her. In fact, Madame Zhang's cooking was average, but the meaning was different. In addition, Jingwan was really hungry, so she ate a lot. Madame Zhang also knew that the food she cooked was not very good, but whether it was in Qian Prefecture or now, her daughter always gave her face. She was naturally happy, unlike that bastard Jingbo. When he was young, he would spit it out when he ate. Now he would put down his chopsticks after eating 2 mouthfuls. However, she was still quite self-aware. She only cooked occasionally. She could not poison her daughter just because she gave her face. Mother's cooking has improved a lot. Half of it was the truth, and half of it was to coax Madame Zhang. Really? Madame Zhang was very surprised. Her son and her husband did not say a word about her cooking, let alone like it. "Mother will cook for you in the future." "Okay." The maidservants put away the things on the table and rinsed their mouths. Jingwan sat there and chatted with Madame Zhang. Although Madame Zhang had all kinds of shortcomings, she also had her good points. She was very patient with her children. Moreover, because she was simple-minded, you could talk to her as you wished. Of course, it was all trivial things that did not take much effort. She would always listen with a gentle smile and respond to you. After that, she might not remember a word of what she said, but the whole process was very relaxed. "Mother, it's getting late. You should go back and rest first." She knew that Madame Zhang did not have much to do and did not have anything to worry about. Her schedule was very regular. "Mother is not sleepy yet. It's not too late to go back and rest when I'm sleepy. I just woke up and won't go back to sleep for a while. I know that Mother wants to accompany me, but I have a lot of people here. If it's not enough, I can still read." Madame Zhang was still a little hesitant. "Madam, go back and rest first. The old madam still has something to do and is waiting for Miss to go over." Mama Gong spoke up at the right time. "Ah, Mama, why didn't you say so earlier? It's a sin to let the old madam wait for so long." Madame Zhang said helplessly. "It's okay. The old madam has slept a lot during the day and is in good spirits now. She knows that you are here, so it's not too late to let the two of you talk. Then Wan, hurry over. Don't let the old madam wait for too long. I'll go back first." "Okay." After the maidservants sent Madame Zhang out, Jingwan spoke again. "Mama, grandmother really has something to talk to me about?" "Yes, Mississippi. The old madam has been waiting for you. Then go over now. I also have something to talk to grandmother about. Jingwan guessed that grandmother should already know about Jin Qinhuang's matter. It must be known that the assassination of a prince or Qinhuang was not an ordinary matter, and would definitely be reported to the emperor. Then 10 out of 10 people in the court would also know. It was normal for grandfather to let her mother bring a letter over. After all, Bailong Temple was the place where Jin Qinhuang was assassinated. Grandfather was not the kind of person who would absolutely not tell grandmother about the court matters. His purpose was also very simple. If grandmother knew, then ask about the specific matters. If she didn't know, then just let her know. After all, even if Bailong Temple was calm on the surface, she was afraid that the undercurrent was surging behind the scenes. It was just that the matter between her and Jin Qinhuang. She didn't know if he had found grandmother yet. When she saw the old Madame Luo, Jingwan saw that her expression was slightly heavy. Her guess was probably right. Grandmother, Wan is here. Come over quickly. You all can withdraw. She pulled Jingwan to her side and waved the servants to withdraw. Have you rested well? And where's grandmother? Grandmother is fine. Take a look at this. Old Madame Luo handed a letter that was pressed to the side to Jingwan. Jingwan did not hesitate and directly opened it. As expected, it was just, Jin Qinhuang's whereabouts are still unknown. Whether he is alive or dead is unknown. Yes, at least before your mother and the others left the capital had not received the news. It shouldn't be. It was reasonable to say that Jin Qinhuang should have returned to Bailong Temple before her. Even if he was worried that there were still assassins lurking in the dark here, he should have at least informed the emperor about it. Or the emperor deliberately concealed his whereabouts and used this as a pretext to make a fuss, ruthlessly hammering or weakening the power of the person behind the scenes. This was not impossible. Although the rumors about Jin Qinhuang were mostly negative, it was well known that although he had no power, he was deeply favored by the emperor. How can Wan say that? Is there something wrong? It's like this. Jingwan concealed her intimacy with Jin Qinhuang and told the rest in full detail to old Madame Luo. From the beginning, she did not intend to hide this matter from old Madame Luo. If there was any movement on Jin Qinhuang's side, she could not hide it even if she wanted to. Even if Jin Qinhuang agreed to her idea and did not do anything, she did not want to hide it. After all, her knowledge in this world was limited. Perhaps there were some hidden rules that she did not know. Who knew if she would inadvertently violate some taboo, especially when the reason for her meeting with Jin Qinhuang was an assassination. If something happened in the future, and she did not know the reason, then it would not be worth it. With old Madame Luo watching over things with her, it was different. She could always consider all aspects. Even if he could not, there was still grandfather. Old Madame Luo's face became heavy after hearing this. It was related to Wan's reputation. She had to be serious. But it was useless to think about it now. She had to wait for Jin Qinhuang's attitude. Wan did not do anything wrong, but grandmother is worried that if Jin Qinhuang wants to take you into the fu, grandmother does not need to worry about things that have no shadow. If it really comes to that step, then what should be done will be done. If a dignified Qinhuang wants a small girl in the boudoir, we still have the right to refuse. Perhaps Jin Qinhuang saw that I saved him, or perhaps I am not up to the standard of a beauty in his eyes, and just let it go. I hope so. It seemed that it could only be like this now. More importantly, it could not be related to the assassination. Wait until dawn tomorrow. Grandmother will go back and discuss with your grandfather to let your mother stay here. Qiao and Miss Zhou cannot be moved for the time being. Jia will not return to the capital for a while. You should also stay at White Dragon Temple for a few more days. I will listen to grandmother. Other people outside could not hear what the grandmother and granddaughter were saying, but Gong Mama was clear. She thought, old madam, why don't you bring Miss back to the capital? Others did not know, but she knew that the living king of hell was now holed up in White Dragon Temple. It was just that he had moved from his previous residence. His guards on the surface could not see him, so they naturally sent people to look for him outside. Other than that body full of injuries, No one knew how free and unfettered he was living. Wherever he was, it was like a tiger's den or a wolf's den for Mississippi. You left the delicious food that he longed for in his mouth. Did you feel that he did not live fast enough? According to Gong Mama's understanding of him, she was afraid that as long as Miss was in White Dragon Temple, he would not appear to the outside world, and would always be in a missing state. During this period of time, the emperor would certainly have more white hair, and the unlucky ones would naturally be the courtiers. Gong Mama shed tears of sympathy for the emperor when she met such a deceitful son. Gong Mama shed tears of sympathy for the courtiers when she met such a reckless prince. Gong Mama shed tears of sympathy for the courtiers when she met such a willful monarch. Thinking of this, Granny Gong felt much better. Although what he did to the young lady was inappropriate, he didn't really hurt the young lady. His original intention was not to play around. Jingwan chatted with old Madame Luo for a while more before returning. There was no entertainment at night in this world. If one did not sleep, they could only read books. In a temple, scriptures were naturally the most common. Buddhist scriptures were difficult to understand, and it was good enough that she could understand most of them. Jingwan felt that she had no chance to understand the deeper meaning of Zen. She was bored at first, but after calming down, she was able to read. While Jingwan was reading, Li Hongyuan was also reading all kinds of information gathered. This living king of hell had taken over a magpie's nest, and tyrannically kicked Master Liaochen out. That was not all. He even complained that everything in the meditation room had been used and completely replaced. Fortunately, Master Liaochen was magnanimous and did not bicker with him. He turned and leisurely went to another meditation room. Master Liaochen did not live in White Dragon Temple, but in a fairyland-like valley in the back of the mountain. Apart from the acolytes in charge of cleaning, no pilgrims or anyone else would set foot here. Master Liaochen himself was usually in the temple during the day. It was rare to see Li Hongyuan come to White Dragon Temple all year round. In everyone's eyes, Master Liaochen treated everyone equally. No one expected the two to have such a deep friendship. Coupled with Master Liaochen's respect, they would not find this place, even if they turned the entire White Dragon Temple upside down. Li Hongyuan flipped through the letters one by one. In the capital, the reactions of his brothers, his father, and the reactions of the ministers were all complete. These things did not exceed his expectations, and were all within his grasp. Therefore, he only glanced at them, and then threw them to the side without any further questions. The last one was naturally related to Jingwan. Because of Jingwan's accidental fall from the cliff, more people had been sent to protect her. However, they were all in the dark, and it would be difficult for them to protect her in close quarters. It seemed that he had to find a way to send 2 more people to protect her. Li Hongyuan flipped to the next page. Eunuch Mu sensed the change in his mood. He thought to himself, isn't he safely back at White Dragon Temple? Did something happen? Li Hongyuan flicked the letter with his finger. In the future, this prince will not only have to guard against men, but also women. Eunuch Mu resisted the urge to wipe his sweat. He did not need to think too much to know what his master was thinking. To guard against men, he naturally had to guard against those around Miss Luo. As for women, there were many women who wanted to climb into his master's bed. Of course, he had to guard against them. However, wasn't this something he had been doing for a long time? Eunuch Mu thought carefully. No, there was no woman who wanted to climb into his master's bed that deserved his master's protection. Speaking of which, if there were men who liked men, there should also be women who liked women. Could it be? Muin, it's easy to guard against men around Wan Wan, but how can we guard against women? Master, this servant is stupid. This servant really doesn't know such a difficult thing. Eunuch Mu only dared to think this way. Master, I'm afraid it won't work. Why? Miss Luo needs someone to serve her. Yes, he only thought of the women outside. What about the women around Wan Wan? They served her closely. When she bathed and changed clothes, they had already seen Wan Wan's naked body. He had not seen it twice. The more he thought about it, the more gloomy he became. He even had the impulse to immediately pull out all the people around Jingwan and chop them into pieces. This vinegar jar was simply overturned inexplicably. This prince will ask my father to grant me a marriage on the grounds of saving your life this time. What do you think? Good. There was no better idea than this. Master, you should drag Miss Luo back to your nest as soon as possible. No, you should marry her back to the prince's mansion. Then, everyone will be happy. It will be a celebration. Master, please think twice. Eunuch Mu said insincerely. Li Hongyuan raised his head and glanced at him indifferently. Eunuch Mu was so shocked that he almost broke out in a cold sweat. Wanwan's status is not enough. Under normal circumstances, she doesn't even have the qualifications to be a Tsifei. Even if this matter is used to ask for a marriage, at most, she will only be a Tsifei. Even if Jin Qinwang Fu only has her as the rightful master in the future, Wanwan will probably not be happy. Benwang will also not be happy, Li Hongyuan said as if talking to himself. Exactly. So, master, you can only continue to hold it in. We can only continue to endure. Benwang knows that you are all looking forward to Benwang marrying Wanwan as soon as possible. Benwang also wants to. Unfortunately, Benwang does not have the final say in this world. I can only speed up and make my father despair about Benwang's marriage, and let Wanwan become the only candidate. So, who would be the next unlucky person? Sun Yijia is also too idle. That's why she would stick to Wanwan all day. Master, the other girl is already disfigured. It's the time when she's heartbroken. Can you not use underhanded methods? Muan, do you have any objections to Benwang's decision? No, Master's decision cannot be more brilliant. They only had one objective. Master's decision was never wrong. Call old monk Liao Chen over. Benwang has something to ask him. From the way he addressed Great Master Liao Chen, it was clear that Wang Ye had a lot of objections to him. Moreover, it's time to sleep. You slept all day and now that you're awake, you're tormenting others. It wasn't far to begin with, so Great Master Liao Chen arrived rather quickly. Ba. Wang Ye summoned me. What orders do you have? Li Hongyuan put one hand on his bent knee, and the other leg stretched out naturally. His sitting posture was casual and languid as he slightly raised his chin to look at Great Master Liao Chen. Great Master can see through everything. How can you not know why Benwang is looking for you? Wang Ye overpraises me. This poor monk is only a mortal. How can I see through everything? Li Hongyuan curled his lips in a mocking smile. Great Master didn't see that Benwang was about to face this bloody disaster? Would your highness not have been injured if this poor monk had told you? This isn't a disaster for your highness. Your highness's face is filled with joy. Li Hongyuan had to admit that Great Master Liao Chen was right. The main reason was that he had vented his anger on Wanwan when she fell off the cliff. Great Master should have met Wanwan already. What do you think? Forgive this poor monk for speaking bluntly, but Miss Luo is pure and kind. It's a pity she's a match for your highness. That's not something a great master should say. However, the great master only said that this prince is sinful and cruel by nature. His heart, liver, and lungs are all black. It is precisely because of this that this prince should have a woman like Wanwan by his side. This prince is only willing to be bound by her and be restrained by her. Wanwan is a woman who is soft on the outside, but strong on the inside. It is easy for her to attract the attention of men and attract the jealousy of other women. Without this prince's protection, even if she uses 1,000 methods, it will be difficult for her to avoid their schemes. You should say that we're a match made in heaven. Li Hongyuan didn't hold back at all when it came to flattering himself. Great Master Liao Chen nodded in agreement. Great Master, you still haven't answered this prince's question. Her original fate has been broken. Her new fate isn't clear. Overall, it seems smooth, but there may be some twists and turns. It's good that it's broken. If this prince can break it, then her future will be smooth and without twists and turns. From what your highness says, you should know Miss Luo's original fate. Great Master, even if you don't know everything you should know. There's no need to say more. Li Hongyuan never thought that he would be able to hide his rebirth from Great Master Liao Chen. Ba. Of course. Wanwan has been plagued with misfortune recently. Great Master, please help her resolve it. This prince doesn't want anything else. Just give her the red sandalwood prayer beads in your hand. Your Highness is as blunt as ever. Great Master Liaochen seemed helpless. Heh, this prince thought you'd be used to it by now. If you're not, then it's better to get used to it. After all, who knows how many similar incidents will happen in the future. Then as your Highness wishes, I'll give the prayer beads to Miss Luo in 2 days. Li Hongyuan was a little surprised. He had only asked Master Liaochen for the prayer beads casually. He didn't have much hope. His goal was to make it easier for him to bargain. If he couldn't get the best thing he had for Wan, he would at least ask for something that was a little inferior. After all, it was rumored that the prayer beads were very important to Great Master Liaochen. It was said that his master had given them to him when he first shaved. They had been in his possession for at least 100 years. Great Master Liaochen was an old man over 100 years old. No one knew exactly how old he was, so naturally no one knew how long the prayer beads had been in his master's possession. Many people, including his imperial grandfather and father, had wanted the prayer beads, but couldn't get their hands on them. Was he really that important? Great Master, you are going to give them to Wan? Miss Luo has an affinity with them. Li Hongyuan felt that he wouldn't be able to understand Buddhist affinity, even if he were given several lifetimes. Then why wait 2 days? The blessing of Buddhism. Li Hongyuan paused. There weren't many things that could make him show such an expression. It seems that Wan has gained the Great Master's favor. Miss Luo has an affinity with Buddhism. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652960. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. Please wait patiently after reporting and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 79. I think Your Highness is overthinking things. What I meant was that Miss Luo has the compassion of Buddha, not that she is fated with Buddhism. Your Highness wishes to bestow upon her an indescribably noble fate. If one day Miss Luo really becomes a monk, it will be because of Your Highness. Reverend Liaochen was unperturbed by Li Hongyuan's anger and threats. Li Hongyuan snorted. Reverend, you probably won't live to see that day. Even if one day this prince is defeated, this prince will drag her down with him. In life, she will be this prince's woman, and in death, she will be this prince's soul. No one will be able to take her away from this prince. I will kill anyone who dares to stop me. Amipa, Your Highness's murderous nature is too strong. If you don't control it, you will only hurt yourself and others. Li Hongyuan sneered. What? Reverend, are you trying to enlighten this prince? Why don't you perform a divination for this prince, and Wan? Just say that she is this prince's destined person, and that we are a match made in heaven. After we are married, you can have her enlighten this prince. It will be much easier with half the effort. Your Highness, are you sure you want me to perform a divination like this? When it comes to defying the heavens and changing one's fate, one must abide by the principle of gains and losses. If you gain something here, you will lose it elsewhere. Li Hongyuan's gaze sharpened. Reverend, are you saying that this prince and Wan are not a match made in heaven? I once said that Your Highness's actions have opened a path for you, but because Your Highness is changing your fate, even the path may change at any time. If Your Highness chooses to take this path, it will take time and effort, but because of your efforts, you will most likely achieve your goal. Your Highness wants to take a shortcut and reach your goal in one step, but the outcome is still uncertain. Now that I am forcing it, it is already in the category of defying the heavens and changing your fate. If this matter goes smoothly, there will definitely be other matters that will not. Even the changes on the path will be delayed until after the goal is reached, and the future will become even more confusing. I think this is not what Your Highness wants. Others say that an old monk like you is so powerful, but this prince thinks that you are just SOSO. Amipa, those are just rumors spread by outsiders. You can't take them seriously. In the future, when Your Highness obtains your wish, this humble monk will perform a divination for Your Highness to add flowers to the brocade. Li Hongyuan didn't refuse. Master Liaochen was such a revered figure that a single comment from him would be able to suppress many rumors. It was much more effective than a bloody suppression. Moreover, when the time came, Li Hongyuan wouldn't add blood to a happy occasion. Li Hongyuan had achieved his goal and chased Master Liaochen away. He'd completely forgotten whose territory this was. Fortunately, no one had seen his tyrannical behavior, or he would have been drowned by a mouthful of spit from each of them. How dare they treat Master Liaochen like this? Li Hongyuan didn't sleep, so naturally, no one around him could sleep. He called an E. Have you investigated the matter clearly? This subordinate is incompetent. Please forgive me, master. An E knelt on one knee with his head bowed. Ever since they'd followed their master, they'd rarely failed in any of their missions. But this time, they seemed to have stumbled. Had their master misjudged? No, it couldn't be. They'd never seen their master make a mistake. Then there's no need to investigate. Send someone to keep an eye on them. Yes. An E had already prepared himself for punishment, but didn't expect it to be so easily brushed aside. Have you found out who the people sent by this prince's brothers are? Replying to master, including the people sent by His Majesty, we've investigated thoroughly. We've confirmed it over and over again. There are no omissions. What they should know, what they shouldn't know, what they should do, and what they shouldn't do. You don't need this prince to teach you, do you? This subordinate understands. Please rest assured, master. After the matter was settled, Li Hongyuan had nothing to do in the latter half of the night. But at this time, he still didn't feel sleepy. Unknowingly, he walked out of the meditation room. Then, he couldn't help but look at the courtyard where the Luo family lived. Once, when she was thousands of miles away, he paid attention to her daily life from letters, and paid attention to her growth. He was worried that she would become another person who was different from the one in his memory. When she arrived in the capital, he saw her with his own eyes and confirmed that she was still the original her. Although there was still a big gap from the appearance in his memory, the delicate and tender her was naturally more delightful than the one who'd suffered the hardships of wind and frost. When he couldn't see her, he could still try his best to restrain himself. It was nothing when it became a habit, but when she appeared in front of him, he couldn't help but want to reach out and touch her. When he touched her, his heart couldn't help but give birth to evil thoughts. The closer he got, the more he missed her. The closer he got, the more he wanted to get closer. He always couldn't stop wanting to get more from her. That obsession of his didn't fade, because he was close to her. Instead, it became deeper and deeper. A person like him was very clear that this kind of obsession should be eliminated early. Unfortunately, he never thought of doing so. The reason why a weakness was called a weakness was because you didn't have the ability to protect it well. Unknowingly, he walked to the outside of the courtyard wall. Li Hongyuan hesitated for a moment, but still walked around the courtyard wall and entered through the circular arched door. It was quiet all around. This courtyard looked very big, but there were a lot of people. The masters could still occupy a side room, but the others could only squeeze together. Compared to when they were in the capital, when they visited the Luo family at night, the possibility of being discovered was much higher now. If Jin Qinwang, who was rumored to still be missing, suddenly appeared at the place where the womenfolk were staying and was caught red-handed, the fun would certainly be big. The shadow guards behind him were trembling with fear, ready to run away at any time. There was no other way. Although it was quiet here, there were martial monks patrolling the night not far away. They were responsible for the safety of these guests. If they were alarmed, it wouldn't be a joke. Those martial monks were much more powerful than many of the guards in the noble courtyards of the capital. If they were to go against them, they would have to think twice. If it was only them, then it would be fine. The problem was that Bai Long Temple had many people who were specifically targeting Master. If they were exposed, Master, you have injuries. Even if your bones and internal organs weren't injured, the average person would have to lie in bed for 10 days to half a month. Even if you looked fine, you should at least endure it. Night raids one after another. They all felt that Master was outrageous. Not to mention the Lady Protector. To meet such a master, how could it be so miserable? Gong Mama carried a lamp and stood in front of Jingwan's door. She coldly stared at the person who was getting closer and closer. Wang Ye came here in the middle of the night. Enough, this prince will just look at her. I won't do anything. Li Hongyuan impatiently waved his hand to interrupt her. If it weren't for the fact that she was wholeheartedly devoted to Wan Wan, he would have directly sent her to see her biological mother. After all, she was her first master, and she was also indebted to her for saving her life. However, when he thought of serving her in close quarters, he couldn't help but think of the previous problem. Thus, his gaze towards Gong Mama became sharper. Gong Mama was very suspicious of his words, but she saw that his expression was becoming more and more unfriendly. Moreover, there was something else in his eyes. Why did it seem like she was his greatest enemy? She was just blocking the door. It shouldn't be to this extent, right? Gong Mama took a step back. Li Hongyuan entered the room and directly walked to the bedside. Because this was a place reserved for female guests, the decorations in the room weren't very rigid. However, there were still many things that weren't there. Even the things that were brought out of the Luo residence weren't many. In the past 10 years, Jingwan still wasn't used to casually leaving the house, as if she was moving. When she went out, she did her best to make it as simple as possible. Li Hongyuan took out a night luminescent pearl and placed it to the side. Then, he covered it with a lampshade. Immediately, the room became much dimmer. Li Hongyuan only sat by the bedside. He didn't even reach out to touch her. Because he didn't use any medicine, he wasn't sure if a gentle touch would wake her up. She had also slept for a long time during the day. He had originally prepared himself not to appear. But unexpectedly, she fell asleep again. It seemed that she had really exhausted a lot of her energy. Li Hongyuan's heart ached slightly. However, if he had to do it again, he wouldn't hesitate to do it again. After that, until dawn, Li Hongyuan sat quietly by Jingwan's bedside. It seemed that just by looking at her, he was no longer bored or irritated. Your Highness, it's almost dawn. If he didn't leave now, he might be discovered at any time. Not long after Li Hongyuan left, Jingwan woke up. Jingwan's nose twitched. Mama, did someone come? Gong Mama's heart trembled slightly. No, Mississippi. Is there a problem? It's nothing. I just felt that the smell in the room wasn't right. Perhaps it was originally like this, and I didn't notice it before. Gong Mama also felt a little guilty. She forgot that Mrs. Nose was also very sensitive. Wang Yi had stayed here for so long. Because of his injuries, it was inevitable that there would be a smell of medicine. He just left not long ago. The smell hadn't spread yet. She clearly smelled it. How could she miss it for a moment? After Jingwan got up, she did what she was supposed to do, just like when she was in the Luo family. However, she did her morning exercises in the room and did not make too much noise. Instead, she practiced yoga. Yoga was not something she had to practice every day, nor was it part of her morning exercises. However, what she learned was the most authentic yoga. It was very difficult and had a great effect on the flexibility and balance of the body. After a whole set of exercises, Jingwan was covered in sweat. Although the surface of her body was uncomfortable after sweating, her whole body felt comfortable, and she felt good. After finishing what she needed to do, she sent old Madame Luo away. Jingwan then went to see Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhouing Shuang. Their mothers, one of them was her aunt. Naturally, they knew each other. The two families were close relatives. Even if her aunt blamed her, she didn't go too far. Xiaoqiao was also open-minded. She thought that it was good enough that she survived. For her, the shock of falling off the cliff seemed to have a bigger impact on her. This was the first time she saw old Madame Zhou. She was supposed to be a very straightforward woman. But now, her face was haggard, and there were dark circles around her eyes. She looked much older than her actual age. When Jingwan greeted her, she only raised her head to look at Jingwan. She didn't say anything. She didn't even let her in to see Zhouing Shuang. Madam, I don't know if Shuang. Miss Luo, we can't entertain you here. Please go back. Her voice was very cold, and even mixed with suppressed resentment. She was the one who invited them out. She was fine now, but Zhouing Shuang was blind. Even if it wasn't Jingwan's fault, comparing the two, She still felt bad. Jingwan naturally wouldn't argue with her. Madam, I just want to know if Shuang is awake. Old Madame Zhou saw that Jingwan was really worried about her daughter. She knew that she shouldn't be so against her, but she just couldn't control herself. You still? Mother, is Jingwan here? Shuang's voice came from inside the room. At this time, Jingwan didn't care so much. She quickly went around old Madame Zhou and went into the room. Shuang was lying on the bed. Her body was slightly curled up. She was obviously very uneasy. She looked in the direction of the door, but she couldn't focus. Jingwan covered her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. Shuang was not Sun Yijia. Although her family was far from Sun Yijia's, she grew up in the palm of the hand. She didn't have the emotional experience of Sun Yijia. She was cheerful, but her psychological endurance was not strong. After she found out that she was blind, it was good that she didn't break down. Jingwan, is that you? Shuang reached out her hand and asked uncertainly. She didn't know about Jingwan's situation. She just woke up not long ago. She asked the people around her, but no one told her. She even thought that Jingwan was already. Jingwan quickly wiped away her tears and calmed down. She hurried forward and grabbed her hand. Shuang, it's me. Are you okay? I'm fine. I'm fine. That's good. Shuang smiled. I'm fine too. Don't worry. Jingwan could tell that she was pretending to be strong. Her heart ached even more. She couldn't help but lean over and hug her. Shuang, if you're really sad, just cry. Don't hold it in. It's not good for your health. Your blindness is only temporary. Trust me, when the blood disappears, you'll be able to see again. Really? Can I see again? Shuang's voice was a little choked. Yes, trust me. You definitely can. You can see again. You can see again. I believe you. I believe you. She hugged Jingwan tightly and started to cry. Jingwan, I'm scared. I can't see anything. I'm so scared. I'm really scared. Don't be scared, don't be scared. It's okay. Your family, your friends, will all be by your side. Will always be by your side. Don't be scared. Jingwan patiently comforted her for a long time. Shuang finally calmed down. Then she started to ask about Yuan Xiao and Sun Yijia. Jingwan didn't hide anything from her and told her everything. To a certain extent, disfigurement was much more serious than blindness. How did this happen? Shuang's family wasn't prominent, but her grandmother and old Madame Sun had an extraordinary friendship. Shuang often went to Ding General Manor. Although she wasn't very close to Sun Yijia, she was still more familiar with her than most people. On the way to White Dragon Temple, Shuang knew that Shuang was actually easier to get along with than she looked. Through Jingwan, she was much closer than before. Don't worry. Jingwan lowered her voice. She thinks it's better this way. Shuang was stunned. She didn't understand why Sun Yijia would think this way. Jingwan explained to her in a low voice, and then she showed a look of understanding. Jingwan dared to tell her directly, because she knew that Shuang wasn't a talkative person. She knew what was important, and wouldn't say anything even to her family. Shuang was silent for a moment. So she's also a pitiful person. Then she seemed to think of something. What about you? Where are you hurt? Don't lie to me. The deepest wound on Jingwan's body was probably on her neck. She couldn't feel any pain anywhere else. If Jingwan said that she was fine, Shuang probably wouldn't believe her. She put Shuang's hand on her neck against her will. Feeling her careful touch, Jingwan couldn't help but feel guilty again. She couldn't help but curse someone in her heart. Is the wound deep? Everyone knew that the neck was fragile. If one wasn't careful, it could be fatal. It's not deep really. Otherwise, my grandmother and the others wouldn't let me out. Shuang thought about it and agreed. Seeing the atmosphere between the two, Shuang's heart relaxed a little. However, she couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Her daughter said that she was fine and smiled all the time. Didn't she know that her smile was heartbreaking? However, an outsider who she hadn't known for a long time said a few words and coaxed her. And she immediately revealed her true feelings. What an ingrate! Shuang motioned for the servant girl to bring the medicine and prepare some food for her. Although she said that she was fine before, she complained that the medicine was bitter, and said that she had no appetite. Zhou Shuang hoped that she would drink the medicine now and eat something. Otherwise, how could she get better? The servant girl brought the medicine over and looked at Jingwan with anticipation. Jingwan thought for a moment and knew what was going on. She took the medicine and let the servant girl help her up slowly. Shuang, come drink the medicine. It's bitter. Zhou Shuang subconsciously refused. Jingwan stirred the medicine in the bowl gently with a spoon. Good medicine is bitter. How can you get better quickly if you don't drink the medicine? Don't you want to see it sooner? Good sister, quickly open your mouth. Do you want me, your younger sister, to laugh at you? Zhou Shuang's face reddened suspiciously. She reached out her hand. Give it to me. I'll drink it myself. Who needs you to feed me? You're a delicate girl who stretches out her arms and opens her mouth. Don't feed me. Jingwan laughed and put the bowl in her hand. Zhou Shuang drank it all in a few mouthfuls and then frowned. It seemed that she really hated bitter medicine. Jingwan picked up a candied fruit and stuffed it into her mouth. Zhou Shuang hurriedly held it. Miss, Duchess Ding asks you to go over. Nurse Gong entered the room and said softly. Jingwan, go quickly. Maybe something happened to Ijia. Zhou Shuang pushed her. Okay, I'll go take a look first. I'll come back to see you later. Okay. When she was about to leave, Jingwan suddenly stopped. There are some things that I don't want to say to my loved ones. There are some grievances that I don't want to release. It's because I care too much and don't want them to worry and be sad. Zhou Shuang was stunned, and then understood what she meant. She was really a meticulous and considerate girl. I know. That girl. Zhou Shuang couldn't help tearing up. Jingwan nodded. Jingwan will take her leave first. Duchess Ding's mother, whom she relied heavily on, personally came to invite Jingwan. It was obvious that her attitude towards Jingwan had changed a lot. Along the way, Jingwan didn't ask Duchess Ding what she wanted to do. Greetings, madam. Get up quickly. Duchess Ding's attitude towards Jingwan was much more enthusiastic than yesterday. Although Jingwan felt that her attitude had changed a little too quickly and was a little strange, she didn't show it. Facing Duchess Ding's scrutinizing gaze, she stood quietly and calmly. She didn't think that there was anything shameful about her. Duchess Ding was quite impressed with her calm demeanor. She took Jingwan's hand and said, Jingwan, I heard that your grandmother has returned to the capital. I thought that you probably wouldn't go back for the time being. I'm going to let Ijia recuperate in White Dragon Temple. Jingwan, although you are 2 years younger than her, you look like an elder sister. Please take care of her a little more. Madam, you're too serious. Everyone can see how good Sister Ijia is. Let's not talk about who should take care of who. Since we call each other sisters, we should take care of each other. Duchess Ding nodded. You're a good girl. Why did these words sound a little strange? Obviously they were ready. It didn't take long for Duchess Ding to leave with her people. Except for a mother by Duchess Ding's side, the others left as they came. Jingwan looked in the direction in which they left, deep in thought. Duchess Ding's attitude was really puzzling. Even if it was because of Sun Ijia, there didn't seem to be a need to go to this extent. Sun Ijia walked to her side, took her arm, and then smiled slyly at her. What are you talking about? Ask me what you want to know. Jingwan felt that it was better for her not to know. Sister Jia, you should be fine now. How about we go to the back of the mountain to pick some peach blossoms? Sun Ijia was a little surprised, but she didn't say much. Some things would naturally become clear when the time was right. If she said too much now, she was also worried that Sister Wan would be shy. Okay. Anyway, our purpose of coming to White Dragon Temple is to enjoy the flowers. Although there was an accident, if we don't go and take a look, wouldn't the loss be greater? Jingwan nodded. It's a pity that Xiao Qiao and Shuang can't go with us. Then pick more and fill up their rooms. Although it may be worse than outside, there will be less regret. Therefore Jingwan, who loved and cherished flowers, was also prepared to be a person who ruthlessly destroyed the flowers. The mountain was full of peach blossoms. Because of their accident, or because Jin Qinhuang was assassinated, White Dragon Temple had temporarily closed its doors to the public. The other families in the capital knew that White Dragon Temple was currently in troubled times, so naturally, They wouldn't let their family members come over. The people who were there before also left in a hurry these 2 days. Therefore, in this peach forest, there was basically only Jingwan, Sun Yijia, and the people they brought. Wherever the flowers were the best and most beautiful, they would pick them one by one. They really didn't show any mercy when destroying them. Why did Miss Sun pick so many flowers? https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6652961. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bicken.com mobile version reading website mbicken.com. Chapter 80. When Jingwan heard how Sun Yijia addressed the other party, she immediately realized who this person was. The first impression that Ruan Fangfei gave Jingwan was that she deserved to be a woman as famous as Sister Jia. She was like a clear water hibiscus, gentle and elegant. Ruan Fangfei was also holding a peach blossom in her hand. She walked over unhurriedly with a tranquil smile on her face. Under the tender and beautiful peach blossoms, she didn't lose her luster. Instead, it made her stand out from the crowd. The moment one noticed her, it was difficult to see any other beauty. It was really a case of comparing one's beauty to another's. If Sun Yijia wasn't wearing a white cloth on her face and dressed casually, she might be able to share the limelight with her. However, from now on, no one would compare the two of them. No matter how outstanding Sun Yijia was, the first thing people would think of when they thought of her was her disfigured face. One turned from a treasure to a pile of rubble, while the other was still a treasure. When they mentioned the two of them again, they would probably use the word used to. Normal people might sigh at Sun Yijia's experience, but they would mostly ridicule and gloat, because the two of them were the best among the noble ladies. It was said that the same sex repelled each other. In addition, the two of them had different standpoints behind them. They might not have the heart to compare, but they still couldn't help but care a little when they heard more about them. They rarely saw each other. Now that they met under such circumstances, should it be said that it was fate or heaven's will? Ruan Fangfei was very calm. There was nothing strange on her face at all. It seemed that she was still facing the intact Sun Yijia. This kind of person either had a really good mentality, or was very good at pretending. Even Jingwan couldn't tell which kind she belonged to in a short time. When she was born, her brothers and sisters had already grown up. Naturally, they didn't compete with her. Her peers were all nephews and nephews. As an elder, she naturally had to give way to others. Above her, she was still pampered by her parents. Ruan Ruizhong saw it more clearly than Duke Dinghua. He didn't treat his daughter as a tool to exchange for benefits. She was the real Jiaojiao who grew up safely and without worries. Then could she be considered a person with a good mentality? However, Jingwan still felt that there was a trace of inconsistency. In this kind of environment where she was pampered, it was already good that she didn't become unruly and willful. In a situation where no one forced her, how could she still be so outstanding? After all, there were so many things to learn. To be considered outstanding, one naturally had to not only know how to do it, but also master it. It was impossible to do it without putting in some effort. How could a child have that kind of self-awareness? Would he have that kind of patience? How could he have that kind of willpower? Or could it be that she was really a genius who could learn many things at once and master them after learning them a little more? One had to know that Sun Yijia was such an outstanding noble lady. She had been raised under high-pressure policies. Or perhaps there was another possibility. She actually had the same fate as him. Then was it a transmigration or a rebirth? Jingwan carefully sized up Ruan Fangfei, trying to find something from her to prove her guess. However, in such a short period of time, there naturally wouldn't be any results. Sun Yijia and Ruan Fangfei greeted each other. Then, Ruan Fangfei's gaze fell on Jingwan. I wonder which family this young lady is from. I have never seen such a beautiful younger sister before. You must have just come to the capital? Her smile was faint, but it made people feel very comfortable. This is the granddaughter of Luo Shangshu. She is the third child. Her name is Jingwan. She just came to the capital with old Madame Luo a few days ago. Sun Yijia introduced. Jingwan timely squatted down. Hello, Miss Wan. Wan Fengfei hurriedly returned the greeting. Who doesn't know that our Miss Sun's taste is the most picky? To be able to catch Miss Sun's eye in such a short period of time. I presume that the third Miss Luo is extremely outstanding in all aspects. Her eyes were clear and flawless as she teased with a smile. It was difficult to feel disgusted. Miss Wan is too kind. I met Sister Jia probably because of fate. Compared to you and Sister Jia's unparalleled talents, I am just ignorant and vulgar. Enough, little Sister Wan, it's boring to be too modest. Sun Yijia pulled Jingwan's hand. It is said that everyone has their own strengths. Little Sister Wan's expertise is not in this area. Wan Fengfei looked at Sun Yijia's actions, and her eyes flashed slightly. Why did she feel that Sun Yijia seemed to be deliberately putting on a show for her to see? It was as if she was announcing that this was her person, and that she should not have any ideas. This childlike behavior could only mean that she cared. She couldn't help but look at Jingwan again. How should she put it? She felt that this was a very unique woman. She didn't have the kind of beautiful face that would attract people's attention at first sight. However, once you noticed it, it was difficult to ignore it. No matter how beautiful others were, it was difficult to make her disappear in the crowd. Also, the leisurely aura that came from her bones was very attractive. Wan Fengfei covered her mouth and laughed. Miss Sun, are you worried that I will snatch you away? Yes, it's mainly because little Sister Wan is too attractive. I'm worried that if I don't keep an eye on her, she will forget about me. Sun Yijia said very frankly. What nonsense are you talking about? Jingwan gently pinched her. Sun Yijia immediately put on a wronged expression and pretended to be in pain as she rubbed the place where she was pinched. I'm talking nonsense. I have evidence. Jingwan didn't know whether to laugh or cry at her. Okay, don't be agitated. Be careful of the wound. It hurts. Sun Yijia stretched her hand to her lips like a child and wanted to blow on it. And the sound she made at the end of it was simply enough to give people goosebumps. Jingwan was extremely speechless. Was she addicted to playing with her? Seeing her stubbornly stretching out her hand, as if she wouldn't give up if she didn't satisfy her request, Jingwan unhappily blew on her hand twice. This scene made Wan Fengfei quite surprised. She didn't have much contact with Sun Yijia, but she was very clear about her temperament. Was she actually like another person in private? It shouldn't be possible. If that was really the case, there wouldn't be no news at all. Then, was it just because of the Luo family's third young lady? It was very interesting. Looking at the Luo family's third young lady who was obviously younger, but had a doting attitude, this scene was really heartwarming. It was really dazzling to the eyes. She really wanted to destroy it. There are so many flowers, what are they for? Wan Fengfei once again brought up the initial question. Originally, the four of us came to admire the flowers, but now that it's not convenient for them to come out, we are preparing to fold some back to make vases. Jingwan explained, her tone a little lighter. Wan Fengfei's smile froze. Sorry, I don't know. If you want to talk about this, I am also responsible. If the cart driver can control it, perhaps. This matter naturally has nothing to do with Miss Wan. Miss Wan has also been frightened, so there's no need to take it to heart. Miss Luo is magnanimous. I'm just stating facts. Jingwan smiled faintly. It was just that Wan Fengfei's injury wasn't serious, and now she really looked like nothing had happened. However, she had been unconscious for a long time, and didn't wake up until the people from the capital came yesterday. But after waking up, she was in good spirits and shouldn't have been frightened. She had underestimated the endurance of these girls. Miss, let's go back. You've been out for a long time, and the old madam should be worried. The servant girl beside Wan Fengfei said. Jingwan was still thinking why it wasn't Wan Fengfei's mother who came. But then she reacted. This old madam was Wan Fengfei's mother. She was young, but her seniority was high. Jingwan sometimes felt helpless and sad about the matter of old cows eating young grass in this world. These girls didn't marry at 17 or 18, and were considered old ladies. Without any status, They were arranged to be the second wives of those who could be their fathers or even their grandfathers. As for the men, they were already in their 50s or 60s, and no one would say anything about them eating those 13 or 14-year-old girls. Men were still like flowers at the age of 40, and women at the age of 40 could be classified as old people. This was how unfair it was. Wan Fengfei came and left just like that. It seemed that because she was bored in her room, she came out to get some fresh air and some wind. Then, she plucked a peach blossom on the way. The two continued to pluck flowers. Little sister Wan, do you think Miss Ruan's appearance here is a coincidence or something else? Jingwan tilted her head to look at her. Sun Yijia was plucking flowers. She plucked one and reached for the next one. She was quiet, but there seemed to be something else in this silence. No matter what it is, it probably has nothing to do with us. Sun Yijia finally turned to look at Jingwan. Little sister Wan, what do you think of Miss Sun? It's just the first time I met her. It was only a short time and a few words. I didn't feel anything. Little sister Wan, do you know? When I was young, my mother always told me that Miss Wan, who was 2 months younger than me, never needed my parents to worry about her. As for you, you only thought about playing all day long. If Miss Wan learned something, but I didn't and couldn't learn it well, my mother would ask the female teacher to hit my hand. It hurt so much. At that time, I hated Miss Wan very much. Every time I saw her, I wanted to rush up and hit her, but I couldn't. Then I tried my best to learn. I thought that if I surpassed her, my mother wouldn't say that she was good and wouldn't hit me. Later, I got used to it. I didn't need anyone to urge me. I learned by myself. I didn't have to learn everything that she knew. I just learned some things that I liked. Until now, she's still so perfect that it's unreal. Jingwan guessed that Sun Yijia grew up under pressure. However, she didn't expect that there would be a child from another family in her life, and this person's influence on her was so great. However, Jingwan noticed Sun Yijia's last sentence, so perfect that it's unreal. This kind of person often hid a side that others didn't know. This kind of person always had 7 emotions and 6 desires. When they were affected by negative emotions, they always needed a way to vent. She had never shown her emotions in the places that others could see. Then, what about the places that others couldn't see? If it was just a normal way to vent, such as crying, it would be fine. However, there was another kind of person who was called a pervert. Of course, Jingwan wouldn't speculate about others with malice. Maybe Wan Fengfei was just a little picky and pursued perfection. Maybe she really had a life like her, so her emotions wouldn't be easily affected. As for whether she was a pervert or not, Jingwan didn't think of deliberately finding out. It had nothing to do with her, right? However, if it wasn't a coincidence, and Wan Fengfei really wasn't as perfect as she looked, her purpose of coming here might be to see with her own eyes whether Sun Yijia, who was as famous as her, was really disfigured. She used to have 2 first places. Now she was unique. It should be something to be happy about, right? Sister Jia, do you care a lot? How could I care? Therefore, Wan Fengfei's appearance was thrown to the back of their minds. Each of them held 2 peach blossoms in their hands. The big baskets in the hands of the maidservants were also full. However, they didn't go back directly. They went to many other places to look. Although White Dragon Temple was famous for its peach blossoms, it didn't mean that there were no other flowers. They more or less picked some. Jingwan even asked the maidservants to pick a lot of wild flowers and bring them back. Because Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Shuang lived in the same courtyard, they simply moved the 2 of them to the courtyard. It was inconvenient for them to move, so they just looked and smelled at the side. Regarding Jingwan's flower arrangement, the people around her had long been accustomed to it, although they still felt that it was amazing every time they saw it. It was the first time for the others to see it. Although the peach blossoms were beautiful, there were a lot of them placed together, and there were other miscellaneous things. However, under Jingwan's hands, they were trimmed and trimmed. No matter if it was a basket or a vase, she could quickly arrange them into various shapes. Coupled with some other embellishments, it was clearly the same thing, but it felt different when looking at it. It was simply too beautiful. Sun Yijia and Yuan Xiaoqiao stared at Jingwan and couldn't help but praise. So amazing! Jingwan smiled and didn't say anything. Seeing Zhou Yingshuang's anxious and lonely expression, she moved the finished flower arrangement to a place where she could touch it. Yingshuang, smell it. Not far away, the two madams also couldn't help but nod. Madame Zhou said to Jingwan's aunt Luo Ronghui, "Your family's daughter's skills are also superb. She has always lived with my mother in Qian Prefecture. Today is also the first time I've seen her." After a moment of silence, Luo Ronghui continued, "My mother doted on her the most. My mother is a person who clearly distinguishes between love and hate. If she likes someone, she likes them. If she doesn't like them, she doesn't like them. She doesn't care about sand in her eyes. It is very difficult for ordinary people to enter her eyes, but she has always placed third lass at the top of her heart and doted on her. Third lass, in fact, is really a good child." Madame Zhou actually understood Luo Ronghui's meaning. Seeing that Jingwan was always concerned about her daughter, she said, "I know this matter can't be blamed on her, but it is hard for me to accept it at the moment. More importantly, our family's Yingshuang is currently discussing marriage with the son of the Imperial College's chancellor. They were even about to exchange marriage invitations, but she suddenly lost her sight. This matter is very likely to fail. Tell me, how can I not feel sad?" As she spoke, she couldn't help but cry. "Don't cry. They are happy right now. If they hear this, it will be very disappointing. Speaking of which, Lord Chancellor is a kind person. It is not impossible for your family's Yingshuang to regain her sight. Perhaps there won't be any problems with the marriage." Luo Ronghui consoled. Madame Zhou wiped away her tears. "I hope so. Little sister Wan, please teach us." Sun Yijia looked at her expectantly. "Okay. Actually, it is not difficult." Jingwan conveniently sat beside Zhou Yingshuang and asked the servant girls to bring scissors and other things. Then as she spoke, she taught Zhou Yingshuang how to cut her hand. From time to time, she whispered a few words to her. Zhou Yingshuang smiled very happily. She touched her hand when she couldn't see. Even if she was accidentally pricked, she didn't care. When Sun Yijia and Yuan Xiaoqiao saw this, they looked at each other and smiled at the same time. Although they were in a bad situation when they first arrived at White Dragon Temple, it was also a good thing that they could still gather together happily. Actually, things like flower arrangement were more or less common for unmarried women. The basic things were not difficult. The key was that Jingwan taught them some small skills, which were very useful. She is the youngest, but the most considerate one who knows how to take care of others. If I were your mother, I would definitely like such a considerate girl. Madame Zhou replied. Luo Ronghui smiled. Our family's Xiaoqiao has been sick and listless before. Otherwise, she would complain that her leg hurts. But now, she is so happy that she has forgotten all about it. Yes, this situation is already much better than expected. Their mood is better now, so I think they will recover faster. Young miss, the things you asked for are here. Nurse Gong led a group of people to carry a large and heavy wooden box. What is this? Yuan Xiaoqiao asked curiously. Jingwan did not keep them in suspense. She opened the wooden box and found that it was filled with square blocks of mud. You asked the monks to help you with this? What are you going to do with this? Sun Yijia was puzzled. Of course it is to arrange flowers. Without further explanation, she directly started to do it. She brought over a table and piled up the mud blocks one by one. Some places were higher, while others were lower. Of course, Jingwan did not need to do it herself. The servant girls would do it according to her instructions. After the first step was completed, Jingwan started to decorate it. She did not touch the originally square blocks of mud. Instead, she decorated them with leaves, branches, and some wildflowers of different sizes and colors. When she stopped, the mud blocks no longer had their original angular appearance. They were completely a large and beautiful flower arrangement base. Soon after, Jingwan started to arrange flowers on top of this base. Because it was all soft mud, it was naturally easy to arrange. The flower arrangement that took up more than half of the table quickly took shape under Jingwan's hands. The flower arrangement they had seen before was basically the bouquet in the vase. This was the first time they knew that flower arrangement could be done this way. Sun Yijia could not help but walk forward. She wanted to reach out and touch it, but she seemed to be afraid that she would damage it. She could only praise, "It is really beautiful." Luo Ronghui and Zhou Foran could not help but gather around to take a look. Miss Luo's hands are really skillful. I don't deserve Foran's praise. It's just that I thought a little more than others. In fact, anyone can do it. But it's just that you thought a little more than others. Jingwan slightly blushed. This was not what she thought. She just saw a little more, but she could not explain it. Mother, don't block it. Let me take a good look. Yuan Xiaoqiao could not help but say. Okay, I'll let you. Luo Ronghui moved to the side. Zhou Yingshuang was the only one who couldn't see the hustle and bustle. She was anxious, but she just lay there quietly, imagining the special flower arrangement. During the whole process, the maidservant whispered into her ear in detail. She tried her best to imagine it, but she felt very empty. She did not feel that it was very beautiful. It was somewhat powerless. Her hand was suddenly grasped. Jingwan's soft words rang in her ear. When your eyes are better, I will arrange flowers for you. There are all kinds of flowers. You said it. When the time comes, if you do not meet my requirements, I will not comply. Zhou Yingshuang gently shook Jingwan's hand. Jingwan was true to her words. There were many more flower arrangements, filling Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Yingshuang's room. Their side was harmonious, but Li Hongyuan's side was not so wonderful. Wan Fangfei deliberately went after knowing that Wan Wan and the others went to the peach forest. She did not react when she saw Sun Yijia. Instead, her attention was more on Wan Wan, replying to Master yes. Li Hongyuan's understanding of Wan Fangfei was that she was unusually cold, but she never thought that there was anything wrong with her. As for whether she was jealous of other outstanding women, he really did not know, nor was he interested in knowing. However, she inexplicably stared at Wan Wan, so he could not ignore it. Li Hongyuan quietly pondered for a moment. After a while he said, "Prepare the people. When Wan Wan returns to the capital, immediately send them to her." In addition, Wan Fangfei's side cannot be relaxed. The capital is always paying attention to how Imperial Father will deal with this matter. This prince wants to know as soon as possible. Yes. In fact, whether it was Eunuch Mu or an E, in this case, why didn't he directly deal with Wan Fangfei? Or, did he really have feelings for Miss Wan in his heart? Li Hongyuan glanced at them, and the two immediately abandoned the thoughts in their hearts, as if they were afraid that their master could see through it. In the next few days, Jingwan's group of 4 lived very peacefully and happily. Jingwan not only made flower arrangements for them, but also taught them how to make rouge with peach blossoms as the main ingredient. There were 1 or 2 times when she even carried Yuan Xiaoqiao and Zhou Yingshuang out on a soft couch and ran all over the mountain. They were happy, but those rough old maids were a bit suffering. However, for the sake of these older sisters, Jingwan could only apologize to them. As for the 3 Furans, seeing that their young ladies were happy and their bodies were recovering quickly, even if their words and deeds were a bit out of line, they would turn a blind eye. They often gathered together and talked happily. Perhaps Sun Yijia was used to it, so she didn't say anything about her mother's absence. Li Hongyuan didn't attack every day or night, but at least once every other night. Fortunately, except for one night when he gave Jingwan some calming medicine and hugged her to sleep, the rest of the time he just looked at her and left after sitting for an hour. This kind of life lasted for 7 or 8 days, and Li Hongyuan waited for news from the capital. Bestowed marriage? Imperial Father bestowed Sun Yijia to this prince? Li Hongyuan gently knocked on the table. You know that this prince likes beautiful women, but bestowed a disfigured one to this prince. Because this prince's whereabouts are unknown. You don't know about this matter and won't disobey the imperial decree, right? They all lowered their heads and didn't dare to breathe loudly. Speaking of which, how many times had their master been bestowed a marriage? Go and arrange for Wan Fangfei to be bestowed to this prince as a side consort. The time can be delayed. It can be delayed for 10 days or half a month. https://www.bikin com/11/11807/6652962. HTML. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Pavilion mobile reading website mbicken.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.